Yo, 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 what up, everybody? Hope everybody's doing well. It's your man, Cody Pope. We're here for the official first episode of No Sugar Added. Appreciate everybody that's jumping in here so far. I know we're just opening up the pipeline right now, so hopefully we'll give it a minute or two to let some people rock in here. I see some people already here though, so appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, drop comments wherever you're at. I will see all your comments if you're on Facebook or YouTube. And yeah, I would love to talk to you guys to make this thing pop. And I see we already got some shit going. Yeah, shout out the homie Jess. Appreciate you, fam. Looking forward to linking up when the road brings us back together again. Hope you've had some fun adventures in the meantime, though. We got a fun one in store tonight. Let me get the we're really stepping things up on this show tonight with some background music, courtesy of my brother Byron G. Let me know how it sounds though. Let me know if you can hear it. This is my first time messing with the microphone and the audio and the background music and all this stuff. So hey. All right, some of my fellow panelists are coming in to start talking shit about this fight card soon. Excited to get some people up in here. Let me just go over a few things while we're letting people in here. So obviously, thank you guys for jumping in to this. This is actually the first official episode of No Sugar Added. The one we did last week was just kind of like a chat bullshit, talk about what we were going to do kind of thing. So thank you if you were tuned into that one, and thank you if this is your first one as well. This is just my little corner of the world. It's obviously like a different creative undertaking than what I've normally done. I'm really excited about all the possibilities and the opportunities to connect with people, talk about the things that motivate me, the things that interest me. It just anything that had some sort of impact on me. Nice thing about being in this little corner of the world is that we can discuss anything we want, whether it's music, movies, sports, motorcycles, whatever we want to talk about. So I'm really excited for everything that we have to come. Like I said, tonight we are going to be talking about UFC 308. What a tumultuous weekend this was if you were betting with your heart. And so we're going to get into that. I'm going to let a couple people jump into this back panel here still. Shout out to the homie Rochelle that's going to be popping on with us soon. Shout out to her dog that's there with her, I can see. Excited to get both you guys on here. Let me just run through some stuff real quick. We wanted to introduce a couple new segments for the show. So one of the things I wanted to do is just talk about some of the things I was getting into this week. First thing I wanted to talk about was music of the week. So for music this week, I really wanted to highlight a band called High Viz. They're from the UK. It's very like melodic hardcore. That's kind of generalizing it, but just a fantastic band. They have a new album out called Guided Tours. It's a fabulous album. I listened to it on the bike and took it for a ride and really, really enjoyed it. I think this band is going to continue to be something really special. But the song that I wanted to highlight is actually from a 2022 album of theirs. And the song is called Talk All Night. The song is called Talk for Hours. I'm trying to pull it up here on my fucking thing so I can show you guys. It's from their 2022 album Blending. So if you watch this after the fact out of the live stream, I'll post the album so you can see it. But the band is called High Viz, and the song is called Talk for Hours, and they also got a new album out called Guided Tour. Awesome album. This band is going to be incredible. Check them out. Movie of the week took a little bit of an interesting turn. So A lot of you guys that follow me already probably know how much I talk about Criterion Channel and my movie collection and all this kind of shit. So when I run out of physical movies to watch, I'll go through the Criterion Channel and check out some stuff on there. And I came across a movie that is heading out this week, I believe. It's called Kansas City Confidential. It's from 1952. It's a really dope movie. I don't want to say too much, but what I will say is you could tell that this movie was a huge influence for Reservoir Dogs from Quentin Tarantino. It very much has a lot of those same elements of like the mystery and trying to commit the heist and all that. So that was the movie I was the most excited about this week. I watched a bunch of other shit, but I wasn't as happy with it. So yeah, that was the one I was really happy about. And then my read of the week this week, I'm currently reading Subliminal. It's by Leonard Mlodinow. I probably butchered that, but Subliminal is exactly about that. It's about how your subconscious affects your actions and your perspective and your way of thinking. It's honestly, I've had it for years and I've read into it and just never really finished it. And with life being the way that it is right now, I figured what better time than now to really figure out what's going on and how to set myself up for the next course. So last thing I'm going to do is run through some event listings here. Obviously, because we're based in New England, a lot of this stuff is going to be New England based, but don't hesitate to send us stuff from all over the place. So I want to start tomorrow night, Tuesday night on the 29th. Valletta is a North Carolina dark metal band. They're going to be playing with my friends in Drive-By Bukkake at Cody, Salem. If you're into thrash, if you're into fast metal, if you're into just like having a killer fucking time, I implore you to go check out Drive-By Bukkake. And they're going to be opening for Valletta from North Carolina. That's at Cody in Salem, Massachusetts. Also tomorrow night, This Will Destroy You is going to be performing at Sonia. This Will Destroy You is, I'm sure some of you guys already know this, but they're like a fantastic instrumental band. I would almost compare them to Explosions in the Sky, but they're a lot heavier, a little more low tone kind of stuff. But I can imagine that's going to be a phenomenal show. Wednesday, October 30th, legendary hip-hop group The Far Side is going to be playing at Wally's, and my good friends I9 and DJ Myth are going to be opening the show. So if there's tickets still available, definitely recommend checking that out. Not very often The Far Side is going to come to New Hampshire, I imagine, so make that one huge. On Thursday for Halloween, one of my favorite theaters, the Coolidge Corner Theater, is hosting a Scream Halloween house party. They're going to play the original Scream movie, followed by the first new Scream movie as well, back to back. So that's going to be a friggin' blast. Shout out to everybody that's working on putting that on. A couple things coming up for this weekend and the rest of the month. On Saturday, 11/2. So now we're getting into November. It's crazy how fast this year has gone by. Holy shit. There's going to be a big flea market at the Nashua Senior Center from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Hip-hop artist Anoid is going to be playing at the Middle East with Chemic opening up. Big shout out to Chemic. If you need tickets to that show, hit up at Chemic Hip Hop on Instagram, and you can probably find her on Facebook as well. That's going to be a really dope show. On the Saturday the 2nd as well, The Far Side continues their New England trek. They're going to be at Nectar's in Burlington, Vermont with Mr. Burns, one of the best Vermont artists. Shout out to Scott. I honestly think this show might be sold out now. I'm not 100% sure, but go and look anyways. The Far Side is going to be at Nectar's this Saturday. This Sunday is Rap Night Manchester at the Shaskeen in Manchester, New Hampshire. For anybody that doesn't know, Rap Night Manchester is a regular residency that's been going on for over 10 years now. And they have hip-hop artists. It's run by DJ Myth, hosted by I9 and Sean Caliber at one of the greatest New Hampshire spots, the Shaskeen, every single Sunday night. Seldom do they ever cancel, so I implore you to go and make time to check that out. Next Wednesday, November 6th, Coffee and Kindness in Nashua, New Hampshire is going to be having an open mic night. I wanted to mention this just because it's new. So Coffee and Kindness is new to the city. They've been here for a little over a year, and they just started doing this open mic night a couple weeks back. And so the fact that they're keeping it going every week, I hope people will check it out and support it. I know I'll be there soon myself to check it out as well. The next day on the 7th, November 7th, there's going to be an event called Stand Up Nashua at the Nashua Public Library. You guys know I love Nashua Public Library. I've done a ton of events there myself, so I always love supporting what they do. This is the first time I've seen them do like a stand-up show, and it's like geared towards the 18 plus crowd. So I think it's going to be really fun. I'm pretty sure it's a free event. They've got a whole lineup of of comedians. So definitely check that out. Stand Up Nashua, Thursday, the November 7th. Friday, November 8th, the band Slant from Korea is going to be playing at the Cambridge, Mass. Cantab Lounge. That's going to be a really cool show. I don't get the impression this band is able to come to the United States very often, obviously. And so I admittedly just saw the flyer come up on my feed. I wasn't familiar with them before I started looking them up. And they're just like an awesome, I hate to classify bands, but it's like, very like thrash power violence, just like super aggressive, fucking awesome hardcore. But I ended up watching a bunch of videos of live sets of theirs. They're fucking sick, so check that out. Sunday, November 10th, Donaher is going to be at Taffeta in Lowell. Donaher is an awesome power pop punk band, reminiscent of like Saves the Day. Shout out to Nick LaValle, who's the front man for Donaher. He's an awesome dude, former comedian, does all sorts of great shit in the community. And yeah, Donaher is sick. So check them out at Taffeta Lowell, another great venue, Lowell, Massachusetts. On the same tip, on November 22nd, that's a Friday, November 22nd, my dear friend Ruby Shabazz is going to be opening a show at Taffeta Lowell as well. This is going to be a really big show for her. It's an R&B, hip-hop kind of show, a little more on the R&B soul side. Ruby Shabazz is a phenomenal artist and has a bunch of music that you can find all across platforms. So I implore you to check her out. And lastly, on my event run up this week, December 7th, my man M. one of the hardest working hip hop artists in New England, is going to be performing at Jewel in Manchester, New Hampshire. So make sure you check that out as well. Thank you for sticking around. Big shout out to my homie Star up in here tonight. Appreciate you, Star. Last week when we started the show, Star said that she set a reminder to check it out, and nobody even knew what the show was going to be. And that's just called having good friends. So I appreciate that. With that said, hopefully you guys just caught all of those events. If you missed any of those, let me know and I will pull them back up at some point. Now I kind of am going to jump into this shit a little bit. This will be interesting. So obviously this is going to be an interesting conversation. We just came off the weekend of UFC 308, which in the martial arts world was a huge event. There was a featherweight title match between Ilia Topuria and the legend Max Holloway. Insane matches with Robert Whittaker and Hamzat Chimaev and so much more. So I'm going to bring in some of my guests here, and I'm excited to kind of run through some of these fights. Let me bring in my first guest is Rochelle. What's going on, player? How are you? I think your mic's off right now. Oh, you there?
How about you?
There we go.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Perfect.
All right.
I lost you for a second.
I was having technical. Okay. I said I was living my best life. I'm doing all right. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Thank you. So yeah, did you get a chance to watch the whole card this weekend?
I did. I missed some of the early prelims because I was working at a event. I'm a foster for pups, as you probably saw me briefly holding a dog. I was working at that event, so I missed the first couple of fights, but I was able to catch the end.
Oh, hell yeah. I literally was like trying to take notes while I was watching the fights to be like, oh, what am I gonna mention? And the card just got dramatically more intense. And then some of my notes as I get to the later fights are just like, ah, shit. It got so crazy. Like,
back fist? Question mark. How many, like, you know, how often do you see that? That's it. That's all you can say about, you know, that fight. You know, it's just, there's so much to say. I feel like a common theme has been going on since Khabib got really popular, where I think we need to rectify whatever. So, in our best as U.S. wrestlers over because, you know, because that's just a common theme that's been coming up card after card after card, every Abu Dhabi fight. They're, you know, world renowned for a reason.
I know, it's such a double-edged sword because it's like, I hate to be a hater on people that are super talented, and I never want to like prey on someone's downfall. But sometimes it's just like so hard to get excited for some of these guys because it's like, damn, we get it. Like, you are an insane wrestler. I know that you're going to smother us and suffocate us. But it's like, holy shit, give me something I can't predict, you know?
Yeah.
And I will say that unfortunately this weekend was definitely that. It was a lot of the unpredictable.
There was the added dramatics of how it was in after put on explanation. That other that oh man, I cannot imagine serious, but that looked pretty brutal.
Yeah. Can you hold on, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, your audio just was cutting out a little bit, so I just wanted to make sure that we didn't lose you.
Yeah, this is my literal first rodeo. I've never really done a podcast before or done anything really much with these AirPods, so that might be.
Hell yeah, I feel you. I did the first episode last week on AirPods, and it was an adventure, but it worked. So it's like, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So you came in during. So did you see what was like the first? Do you remember the first prelim fight you saw?
Ooh, let me look back at the list here. I have the list pulled up. A little bit of homework. The fighters I don't recall, and it's been happening. Like, I've been following since I was in middle school. Feel as though the UFC, other martial arts forums, they're, you know, have their own set of popularity, but I feel like the more fights that I watch, there are less and less fighters I recognize, and it's becoming very convoluted in all of these short-term contracts that are happening with the Contender Series and all that. But I believe, I don't want to butcher this name, but Magomedov, the one I can characteristically say the one with the eye.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My gosh. Yeah, that was intense. So I'll tell you. So I was lucky. I made time to watch most of them, but I will say the one that friggin' threw me. Oh, so you must have saw it then too. Right after that one was the Rebecca and Oralby fight. That was, I think that might have been the fight of the night. I was on the edge of my seat watching that more than any other fight that came on.
Yeah, it was a fantastic card. I was really bored during the prelims at all. So yeah, no, I guess I missed just the early prelims now that I look at.
Yeah, so the first fight was Farikdinov and Leal, and I guess this was Leal's first UFC fight in general, if I understand correctly. So I'm kind of with you too, where it's like it's so hard to keep up with some of the like the new Contender Series people and all of that. But that was honestly a great fight. And I just wrote in my notes, I was like, this fight could have gone either way, and I don't think anybody would be mad. It was like, it was honestly, what were we saying?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it was just like a great effort by both fighters, honestly. It was like one of those fights where it was like, it was a split decision, and I wouldn't have been mad either way.
Yeah, when it's that close. Do you know so if it was his UFC debut, do you know his background at all?
I think he was undefeated beforehand, but it was like, I think he was like 7-0 or something like that. I'm trying to see if I can pull up his record actually. He's a Brazilian mixed martial. Oh, he's 10-2 with 9 first round finishes.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, yeah, and then the guy he was fighting, Faruk Dinov, he's had at least a handful of fights in the UFC, if not more. So to come in your first fight and hold your own the entire 3 rounds was like pretty damn impressive.
No, absolutely. I think actually, I want to recant something that I said. I said that I didn't think that there was anything that was that disappointing to me. I actually was a little bit disappointed in the Dos Anjos fight, but not for the reasons of the actual fight, that this whole like dying age of a certain age of fighter. Dos Anjos is like, has defied a lot of age requirements as it comes into this sport. And there's been a lot of talk of saying like Donald Cerrone coming back into the UFC or like other fighters coming out of retirement, and it's usually a pretty disappointing thing. But his career has been absolutely phenomenal. But it's like it was a little bit sad to see. And I think about his injuries must have been pretty bad after that fight, and thinking about his age and thinking like, wow, I wonder if he keeps going, because like if you don't keep that motivation up, what happens when you're done? You start feeling that pain and that long career. But I guess so. That one was, I guess, not disappointing, but disappointing in thinking about the fighters that are aging out that I grew up with.
Yeah, RDA's been like plagued with injuries too, and so it's tough because there's been so many times where he had the opportunity for a title shot or had the opportunity for the red panty night or whatever it was going to be, and it's always like an injury that's kept him from taking full advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's been a couple of years since he's won a fight. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the best record keeper.
You're probably right.
If he has a watcher, but not the best record keeper.
Yeah, it's like if he has one recently, it wasn't like anybody impressive, Yeah,
it sucks to see certain fighters fall down the card too, which was what happened with Cerrone, where he retired on a prelim card, which seems absolutely crazy for how astronomical his record was. But yeah, you see them start falling in the cracks there.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm looking at RDA's record right now, and he's literally won 2 of his last 6.
Okay. I wonder how many he has left
since he's been in the win column.
Yeah, okay.
So it's definitely depressing.
Yeah, retirement bells might be ringing.
And that's the thing, is I don't think it's an age thing as much as it is a physical upkeep thing.
Meaning because of the injuries more so than his physical abilities at his age?
Yeah.
Like meaning if he didn't have the injuries, he would still be a high competitor?
Very possibly. Look at Yoel Romero. Now, granted, obviously he ran into some issues in his career, but that guy's in his mid-40s, still fighting in Bellator, still getting title fights. You know what I mean? And realistically, had he have worked better and negotiated better, maybe very well would still be in the UFC, It's like that guy still has all the steam in him. And it's like the same 43-year-old guy, it's like Chris Weidman and Yoel Romero are almost the same age. And they have vastly different physical credibility at this point.
Yeah, I think that's I hear you on the injuries, but also genetics. I would like to have some of those genetics myself, yes. Whatever Yoel Romero has. But that's totally true. You know, you can compare people by age, but at the same time, there's genetics play, injuries, so on and so forth. It can kill you really early. It can leave you with a lot of injuries, or you can maintain. That's true. That's a really good point.
The next fight was Nardiev versus Silva. And this is funny that we got on the Chris Weidman tip, because in this fight, Silva's last fight, I think it was, I could be wrong, but let me check. But I'm pretty sure in Silva's last fight before this, he had fought Chris Weidman. And that was, I don't know if you remember, but that was the whole eye poke thing where Weidman ended up poking his eyes. And I think it ended up giving him the fight too. So it was like really unpleasant. So this was one of those fights where it was like, I was really hoping that Bruno Silva was going to have a chance to redeem himself and maybe call out Chris Weidman for a rematch after the fact. But honestly, this guy Nardiev, he just came out so fast right from the gate. And the commentary was saying that he had been in the UFC and then had been let go. And I think he's been out for a couple months or maybe a year or so. And so this was his first fight in return to the organization. And man, you could just tell that he friggin' wanted it. In the second round, Bruno Silva still wasn't really there yet. Nardiev initiated almost all the engagement. And by the end of the second round, you kind of knew that Bruno was going to need a finish at that point. And third round was literally same shit, different round. It just seemed like Bruno Silva didn't really want to be there. It's hard to say, obviously, because we don't know what these guys go through in training and travel and all that. But he just didn't show up that night. But it was a big hats off to Ismail Nardiev, because man, that guy just came out the gate friggin' storming. I can't hear you. I lost you. Can you hear me? Hold on, gang. All right, homie Roach is going to try and reconnect her headset, AirPod Life. While she's doing that, I will, let me see. Hold on. So let me just give her a chance to reconnect her headset there. So we're going to bring her back because that's actually been really cool. We're almost at the fight that she came in on anyways. So the next fight after that was Farid Basharat and Victor Hugo. Before the fight even started, I had Basharat. The guy just always seems militantly ready for anything. Plus, he had a friggin' 12-0 record, so it's obviously hard to deny his abilities. It's also freaking crazy. Victor Hugo missed weight by 10 pounds, and even so, Basharat still accepted the fight and took a catchweight fight. So that was some hardcore shit right there. The first round was a scary round. Both guys were moving great. Hugo just looked a lot bigger in there, you could tell. His hits were landing a lot heavier too. But I will say that Basharat was landing more frequently, and he was more mobile for sure. The next round was really close. Hugo seemed to be slowing down a lot. Both guys had a few moments of effective striking, but it was the same thing. Volume for Basharat and impact for Hugo. Hugo just ended up emptying the tank. As soon as round 3 came through, you could tell he was just unloading. Basharat played it smart, saved all the wrestling, and just really kept himself safe and took it home. So it was no surprise there. And the next fight that was on here was I always butcher this name. I'm sorry, but it was Kennedy and Nzechukwu and Chris Barnett. And so, of course, I probably jinxed it, but right off bat, I was like, I'm hoping Chris Barnett takes this one home. He really deserves it. The guy over the last like 2 years, he lost his wife. He tore his Achilles heel. He had so much different shit happen to him. He comes back. He's friggin' smiling. He's moving around. And the guy always puts on a fantastic show. And so, needless to say, it was heartbreaking as soon as I saw him. As soon as he started grimacing, I could tell that something was wrong. And of course, it was friggin' heartbreaking ending. And it sucks because you don't want to take anything away from Kennedy either. He went in there and he looked great, was doing what the hell he needed to do. But it was just friggin' sad watch for Chris Barnett. Hopefully he's not injured too bad, and hopefully he gets a chance to come back. All right, now we're at the Magomedov fight. We're making some rounds here, so let me see here how we're doing. How you doing, champ? Mike's still muted. Oh, she might be frozen in time here. Oh, I saw something. Patience is a virtue, I see. We got like the AOL dial-up thing going on where it's like,
Hello.
hey, there we go. Now it's starting to come through. You hear me okay? Oh, I'm not hearing you yet. Not yet. No worries. It's those fucking AirPods. I know how it goes. It did the same thing for me. Gave me a little trouble. It says I'm No worries, dude. No worries at all. I'm trying to see if it mute, unmute. Did that do anything? Nope, I can see you. I just can't hear you. Are you on a mobile phone? It might be because you're on your phone. If so, I know these things hate this shit. All right, we're running some technical difficulties here. So big thank you to my homie Rochelle for jumping in here. Hopefully we can make some shit happen. Got to get you on here soon. But thank you for jumping in here and chatting with me. If your headset works, I'll leave you in here in case you find a way to come back. But I'll keep blazing through some fights in the meantime. The Magomedov fight was one of those things where it was like I had actually picked Bruno Ferreira to win. And so, of course, Magomedov comes off faster and sharper, and Ferreira's having a slow start. Ferreira did have a nasty head kick in round 2, but somehow Magomedov recovered, went for the body lock, great defense. I still thought Ferreira had round 2 personally, but then Magomedov with the spirit, he locked that choke in and just held on for life. So it was like, that was definitely one of the first depressing ones for sure. But obviously everyone's going to love that highlight of the friggin', can't even replicate that as well as this dude did that shit. Man, yeah, it was wild. And hey, shout out to my brother Jumptown. Jump said, much love, wanted to pop in and show love, looking forward to next week. That's right. So next Monday on November 4th, my man Adam Jumptown, Chef Adam Jump, is going to be my special guest. We're going to be talking all things food and entertainment. Jump used to work in radio and worked in kitchens for a long time and decided to step away from both of those things in order to pursue running an independent kitchen. And now for the last couple of years, he has been running Jumptown's test kitchen, doing catering, pop-up events, as well as being the head chef for the Navasset Lake Country Club. Man, I just can't tell you enough good things about this guy, his food, all the work he's putting into the community. So thank you for jumping in here. Big shout out to him. Make sure you guys check out Adam Jumptown. Depending on what platform you're on, he is pretty much everywhere. I want to make sure I shouted out the homie Adam there for a sec. Oh, okay. So Rebecca versus Oralby. I think I'm saying those names wrong too, because they kept saying it differently, but I apologize. But man, this was I wrote when I was taking my notes, watching it, I was like, fight of the night so far. Holy shit. Couldn't take my eyes off the screen. And then I was like, if I have to guess, I was like, it's going to be 29-28 Oralby. I was like, I might be optimistic here. Both guys are putting on a heavy fight. I was like, I wouldn't even be mad at a tie. And of course, it was neither of those. Rebecca won. Well played. You earned it. Then, as we mentioned, the Jeff Neal and Rafael dos Anjos fight. So this is really where the card just starts getting super depressing for me. I wanted Oralby to win. That was depressing. I wanted to see a scrap between Jeff Neal and Rafael dos Anjos, and instead, Hands of Steel wrapped it up real early. I don't know what happened, but it seemed like RDA had like an ACL tear or something like that. We were kind of just talking about that a little bit ago. And then, the next fight, literally 51 seconds. Ibo Aslan and Rafael Sequeira. That was quick. Aslan just came out with a friggin' onslaught and took that man's O from his record real fast. And then after that, we went into the main card. We had two Magomedovs on this card, I just realized. So I was probably talking the wrong shit earlier. Let me see if I'm gonna try and bring in the homie again, see if shout out to Sustainment TV. Appreciate you subscribing on YouTube. Just saw that pop up. I see Rochelle doing something here. I know the feeling. That's why I did the cheat code tonight. I came and just used the microphone at the studio because I know the feeling. Oh, device is not connected. Shit, we lost her. See what happens. Okay, so let me run through a few more of these here. So, so we were talking about Shara Magomedov and Armin Petrosian. So you could tell probably I had a bunch of more in-depth notes during the prelim fights. I was trying to let's see if we can get Michelle back in here. Yo.
Yeah, I'm not sure because it's not like I'm on an antiquated device or, with the AirPods or the laptop, but it gives me about 5 minutes of time with you. And then all of a sudden I can't hear you at all and I have to reconnect. So we might have a couple of minutes, but I'd love to keep participating.
We'll cherish all the moments we get.
Okay.
We just jumped on that crazy friggin' Shara Magomedov Armin Petrosian fight. And all my notes said that sucked.
Yeah, that sucks. All right, movie. I feel like I did hear the part where you said after the RDA fight you got depressed. I think a lot of fighters, based on memes alone, feel that same way watching the card from here forward. Yeah.
The friggin' Oralby fight, that was like the crux of this card. Everything was getting better and better. That fight was fantastic, and then everything just fucking tanked afterwards.
Yeah. Absolutely. I wonder, I don't know what's going to happen next for Chimaev. Who do you think, now that he's had this fight with Whitaker, where that's going next?
I don't know, man. Can I be honest with you too?
Yeah.
So one of my best friends, he lives in Florida, but anytime the fights are on, we always like chat during the fights. That the one fight that we like disagreed on, I guess you would say, that we were pulling, like I was pulling for Robert Whitaker and he was pulling for Hamzat. And so when that fight ended, of course I was bummed. And he was like, oh, he asked me the same thing. He was like, what do you think is next for Hamzat now? You know, like, has to get a title shot, right? But here's my concern, and I could be off with this. I don't think that Hamzat should get the title, because I think that's going to hold up the division way worse than we've seen it in a while. He's been so unreliable in terms of having like health issues and fight cancellations and missing weight. He's fought in multiple weight classes. I don't think he's ever fought outside of Abu Dhabi, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure there's a logistical reason why he can't fight in the United States or anywhere else. And so if your title holder is a guy who constantly has medical issues, fights once every couple of years, and can't leave the Middle East, how is that division not going to be stalled? You know, that would be my biggest concern, honestly, is like, man, that's just going to slow the train on that friggin' division.
I mean, well, we see that with Jones. When you were describing that, I was like, you could replace that whole segment, besides the fact that he's not geographically limited, to John Jones, and it would all fit, where it does slow down the division when your fighters can't fight, won't fight, injured, delay. So no, I totally see that. That's a great point. I think that it's easy for me. It's like, okay, with the Dagestani fighters, as you said, maybe they're not the most colorful, but they get the job done, and it's dominant and it's impressive. So you just kind of want to see, like, it's like the easy person to support.
Yeah.
I think that's why I support him. I always call him Evil Khabib, personally, just because of his personality and demeanor is quite different than Khabib, but obviously similar style and everything, and regionally. But that's just inside joke for me. But with that, yeah, it's an easy supportive thing, because you know, he's dominating. His record shows this, that, and the other, despite the fact that there might be delays and how often he's contending, I guess. But no, that is a good point. But when you said that, I was like, you could literally put John Jones in that, any of the things you just said, and it'd be the same way. Or I mean, any fighter that holds on to a title in a delayed sort of way. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that's doing that, but I know that's happened in the past.
McGregor did it, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a perfect example.
You know, this is the same thing. And so it's funny that you said this, because it kind of leads me to a question, which is, do you struggle to separate the fighter from their personality outside of the octagon?
Yes and no. So, for example, Colby Covington. I love to watch Colby Covington fight. But his character, things like that, you know, it kind of annoys me. Sean Strickland, you know, that's another one that provokes me, as like, that I can separate the fighter from them as a person. I will always watch a Sean Strickland fight. I will always watch a Colby Covington fight, or at least at this point, that's how I feel. So yes, I think I can separate those two things. But at the same time, it does make it a little extra fun when you have some personal beef. John Jones is actually one for me. When I was growing up, my first love was Chuck Liddell. I wanted him to be my dad. I had Chuck Liddell everything. He was my boy, but I watched John Jones grow up, and not only did I have a crush on this man, but I loved watching his career and everything like that. But then it was just, series of things that have happened over the past decade that now, like, I flew out to Vegas and saw him fight and, you know, was in his camp, so to speak. And then nowadays it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch John Jones fight, but I don't really, I can't, at this point, I feel like I can't separate the fighter from the person.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's like,
Absolutely.
yes and no.
I struggle with it.
Depends. Yeah. Which people do you struggle with? I named off some of the ones that are there for me.
Well, it's tough because like MMA media is so good and so bad about villainizing people for everything they do, right? And so like Hamzat is one of these people for me where it's like now there's all this shit that has come out about how he's like best friends with this dictator, and this dictator is known for like murdering gay people, and you know, and Hamzat like plays with his son and all that. And so it's like a weird thing for me to be like, oh, I don't know if I can like come out and support this guy because I don't support the kind of shit that he's doing on the side, right? And it's like Colby's another one where it's like Colby with the shit, like him and George getting into that fight and him like bringing George to court and all this shit, and like all his little like the Brazil shit where he called Brazil a dump, like all this kind of shit. It's just like, man, like just fight. Like could you just do what you do best and leave the talking to like the fucking, even Conor McGregor sucks at talking now, honestly, you know, like even he lost the gift.
And for so I got to see Conor McGregor up close and personal, and, you know, met a lot of people that were either doing boxing or former MMA fighters and stuff. And people were very, like, he did a great job at promoting, but at the same time, it was almost manic-like, his behavior and the things that I watched some, because I rewatched the fights after I came home. Kind of wanted to see myself in the crowd, but also wanted to rewatch some of the fights. I'm not sure if anybody on here watches the bare knuckle stuff. I'm pretty new to it myself, but yeah, like he shouted out a couple different random matches that I'm pretty sure he made up in his own head, and just this I mean, that's just the Conor McGregor personality in general. But overall, like the shit talking, there's the funny stuff, the stuff that's memorable, like his, you know, fuck you pinstripe suit, you know, that's classic pettiness and that's funny, and but then it gets to a point where it's too much, and you know, the things that he's saying doesn't even really make sense if you're piecing it out, or I don't know, it's just I don't know. I don't know if he's running out of things to say or just thinks he's large, like can say anything to the point where no one's going to actually really put any thought into what he's saying. I don't know if it's the cocaine. A lot of people made jokes about it the whole weekend of the fights about you know, how much cocaine he's doing to sustain this or whatever. But it's both good and bad for bare knuckle. But yes, that's a great example. Something you said also made me think about how sometimes these allegations or things that fighters have done destroy their careers. And one thing that came to mind was Dana White himself, with the incident he had with his wife. That wasn't that long ago, but how soon we forget. And, you know, it's like we have these ethical standards in our lives. I would never, you know, I would never support somebody that had that kind of interaction with their significant other in front of me, you know. But at the same time, we keep watching, we keep tuning in. So it's a good conversation to have about separating the fighter from themselves.
Well, even that was such an ironic like happening too, because it's like here you are, you have this guy who's essentially like a pinnacle of the sport that we all love so much, and then he goes and makes fucking Power Slap, which, like, I don't know how you feel about it, but like I'm just gonna be blunt and say that I think it's offensive. Like, it's one of the stupidest things ever. And they were doing so much co-branding and like doing these collab posts so that if you followed UFC, all the Power Slap shit would show up in your feed. And it's like, so this guy's out here promoting this stupid power slap thing nobody likes, and then he gets caught on video slapping his wife in public. So it's like, dude, like, not only are we all like disgusted by this behavior and would never like condone this, but now you've also made yourself like a mockery and a meme of yourself by aligning all of this shit the way that it did. And so it's like, man, it's so tough, because I think about that a lot. Like, Dana always says, "Oh, I'm gonna retire soon. I'm gonna be done with this," and blah blah blah. And it's like, how is that going to impact the sport? And is it going to be for the better or for the worse? You know, because so many of us have seen this thing through Dana and the Fertittas doing the Zuffa thing and kind of being able to do what the hell they want, and now we've seen them on this ESPN WME umbrella, and you can tell that the leash is a lot tighter, and a lot of the things that they stood on, they've had to kind of walk back on. You know, they said they weren't going to raise the prices of pay-per-views and all this shit, you know, and not only do the price of the pay-per-views go up, the price of the fucking ESPN Plus that you use to watch the pay-per-view goes up. It's like,
and dude, a different and a different subscription for UFC Fight Pass. So annoying. But that was the first, when you started talking about this, the first thing I thought of was how it's almost doubled in price. I remember just being in college and it being $50 for a fight, and your buddies get together, we all chip in $5 and we put it on, and that was it. And it just, ever since the ESPN merger, just higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. I can remember when you would fucking call in for the pay-per-view, you would like go to channel like 99 or channel 0 or whatever the hell it was, and it would be like the pay-per-view channel, and you would call in and order the fight. And I can remember seeing like a John Jones, and I think it was John Jones and maybe Valentina Shevchenko on the same card. Maybe she wasn't in it yet, but I remember watching a John Jones card, and I was at my parents' house, and I fucking had to call in the pay-per-view. But it was like $35 or $40 or something like that. This one this past weekend, I'm pretty sure, was like $70 something.
And I do like the fact that it's been streamlined, because you used to have to find different ways of buying the fights. And, you know, there was different streaming, or you could buy it on Amazon, or pay-per-view, you have to call in, or if you have DirecTV, you have to have a certain streaming service. I do like the fact that it was streamlined, and I don't mind spending the money for the ESPN, and because there's other content on there that I'm watching.
Yeah, now you get all the Fight Pass shit, essentially.
Yeah, well, no, there's actually still, like, if you want to watch LFA or other things that are associated with UFC Fight Pass, that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
But they have Contender Series, they have the old episodes on them and stuff like that, and obviously other sports.
Yeah.
And they do PFL as well. So
PFL's on the ESPN banner too.
Yeah, I think that was a good move, but the higher and higher subscription, I mean, I'm going to come out and say hopefully nobody's going to come for me, but I've never pirated fights before the last couple of years, but I have on occasion done that.
I used to have no problem paying for fights.
Yeah. I have a lot of fight parties, and have people over to my house, but when people wouldn't come, it's just $75 is absolutely steep.
Straight up. I had the same things happen.
Yeah. So to your question though, like what happens after Dana? I don't know. I think Bare Knuckles going in a good direction. I mean, I think Bellator's going in a great direction. I'm kind of hoping, I've told people that I would love to spread myself out a little bit when it comes to combat sports. But it's hard because of the costs and things like that, to keep up and keep relevant, because there are, they have the zone and all that stuff, and that's more and more money. But I don't know how we streamline that, or how they would go back on the cost. But and for fight promotion, I think, I don't know how we replace Dana in that way as an entity. I don't know.
Yeah, he literally is like the Vince McMahon.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like he's the face of all this shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he definitely has a very similar notoriety of Vince McMahon, or will, if he keeps going for a long period of time. I did actually talk to quite a few boxers over the past couple of weeks when I was in Spain about Power Slap. A lot of them brought it up to me, thinking like, what do you like? Everybody tries to feel each other out, but I've never heard a person say, "I love this."
Yeah,
or
no.
like, I enjoy this, or I watch it. They're like, this is offensive. I don't want to combat sports would be done. I think
it's like baffling that it's like, how do you go from mixed martial arts, like people competing to figure out what the most successful skill set is to employ, and then you're like, you know what, why don't we just slap people? Like, why don't we just tie them to a pole and just see how hard we can knock them off their feet? Like, that just seems like the total opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah. That's a drunken backwoods game. That should be as much of a form as it is, but we are people that I mean, in terms of the sport and like getting to bare knuckles and way that those two things might merge in the future. And, like, revamping the glove idea, or there's been a lot of conversations about, they always try to change the construction of gloves over the years anyway, but that MMA could become gloveless. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I've heard that on a couple of podcasts and whatnot. One of the arguments for gloves is that it creates more eye-poking injuries. But at the same time, and I think that obviously with MMA, the benefit of no gloves would be people would be a lot more mindful with their hands. But although people love it when they go to blows, more entertaining fights that way. But
did you ever see Trevor Whitman's gloves?
I don't think so.
So Trevor Whitman is based in Colorado. He is the coach for Justin Gaethje, Rose Namajunas, Kamaru Usman, and a bunch of people. He has a company, I think it's called CNX, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to see if I can find it on here. But dude, so this guy, not only does he like run his own gym, but he's made gloves for his gym. And he's tried to sell the patent to the UFC, and the UFC refuses to buy it because they want to outright own all of the patent and shit to it rather than license it from them. Yeah. But if you see these gloves, they're like, they curve your hand like this so that all you can do is pretty much throw a fist, or if you need to grapple, your palm is already curved. But there's like no way to really lift those fingers up. And it's like, for years, I don't know why the fuck they didn't make these things a priority. All right, we're having some AirPod trouble, so I'm gonna pull the homie out for a second while she resets. So yeah, man, it's just, of course, just when shit was getting good too. This is why I wanted to do this shit though, because I don't have a ton of people in my life that I can always shoot the shit with this fight shit about, that actually know the ins and outs and whatnot. So I really enjoy getting to do shit like this, and hopefully we'll get a lot more of you guys involved on some of these future fight recaps. While we were waiting for her to reset the pods, jump through here. I think she might still be setting up a bit. Yeah, shout out to everybody that's tuned in tonight, by the way. Appreciate you guys supporting this endeavor of mine. It's been fun doing this Monday night podcast so far these last couple of weeks. And like I've been mentioning, we got some real exciting guests coming up over the next few weeks. Let me, looks like maybe we can, boom.
Try it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm a little tangential, about this kind of stuff. So if, I know that we're supposed to be really talking about the event, but it just kind of goes the way it goes sometimes. So I hope that's okay.
Nice thing about doing this is I can do whatever I want. So this is exactly what I'm into. Is like I was just saying before you got back in the chat that it was like I don't have a lot of people to have these kind of conversations with in real life, watching the fights, after the fights, whatever. It's just texting my few friends that are in the know. So I love doing shit like this because really get to just chop it up about all this shit that we nerd out about for so long.
No, absolutely. I have the same kind of circle where, I have a couple of friends that I regularly send stuff out to, or, did you see that during fights? But I try to host fight events and things like that. Sometimes people come, sometimes people don't. Yep. But overall, it's for me. And I'm the one that's organizing it because I want to see it, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I get it. I get that feeling of like wanting to talk to people about it and wanting to have more of a connection to it. But at the same time, those people might be pretty distant and hard to get people together. Exactly. That's why I like Buffalo Wild Wings, for example. I wish that I lived closer to one because I really do appreciate going to a setting like that where everybody's kind of watching. I live out in the damn woods, so when I can, I can. When I can't, it's just me, myself, and I.
I feel that. We used to have this place called Chunky's around here. Oh, it happened again. Did I lose you? I'll wait till she comes back to tell the story. So give her a second to reset. AirPods in the woods aren't liking the podcast, but nevertheless. Oh, she can hear me. Perfect. All right. Let's try this again. Boom, boom. Not yet. While she's working on that, let me give her a moment there. If you guys are digging this song that we had in the background here the whole time, let me turn this up a little bit for you guys. This is my brother Byron G made this beat. If you're familiar with Cody Pope and Byron G, he is producer, engineer, half of our duo, and so we all like to have these beats as the sound bed. But you can hear his beats on our new album as well as his solo instrumental album. So with that said, let's check this back. Boom.
All right, I think I'm back.
Yes.
I don't know. Whole new world pods. I've used them thrice, so I don't know if it's a user issue or whatever, but
hey, we'll figure it out as we go. Shit, okay.
So you were talking about a story. I did hear that. When I take out the AirPods, I can hear you. So you said something about telling a story.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. So we used to have a place around here called Chunky's, which is like a movie theater restaurant kind of combo thing. And Chunky's used to host the fights, or they get the pay-per-views. So I would go to Chunky's and like you basically watch it in a movie theater. And though the one around me just closed, which sucks. But one of my favorite friggin' memories was, I wish I could remember the number. I'm sure somebody in the comments will roast me. But when Valentina Shevchenko fought Jessica Ai, when she was defending her title against Jessica Ai, I was in the theater that night. And so I'm sitting at a table, eating food, watching it. Obviously, I'm hyped. When Shevchenko threw that head kick that knocked out Jessica Ai, hearing that in a theater and then hearing everybody's reactions, it was just like group 100+ people just being like, and like you just heard this crack through these speakers that was like surreal. And it's just like seeing the fights with a group of people is always just such a different experience. And like sometimes we're the lucky ones because we like know so much about it already, so that it's like, oh, this historical thing that happened. But even for like the layman's person, they're just like making the most of it and just watching the fights for the brutality and the sportsmanship of it. Oh, is it working better just without your AirPods? No, we don't hear you.
Does it work with my internal speakers?
It does.
Okay, well, we're going to run that because, I mean, I work on Zoom for a living, and my internal speakers have not failed me, but these AirPods have.
Yeah.
All right, so if you're okay, we can continue this way. I'm not sure if it sounds better or worse, or...
No, it sounds a lot easier to hear you, surprisingly.
No, I want to more than validate what you're saying, though, is like that energy, whether you're watching it with a group of people or in person. Have you ever been to a UFC event?
No.
Oh, you need to do that.
You
need to do that. It's the first time I ever saw a UFC fight, I went out to Vegas and during fight week, and I got to see. I have two things I'll say. Don't worry, I won't go on to too much of a tangent and get back to the fights. But I got to see Masvidal do the flying knee to Ben Askren.
Holy shit.
I projected I was holding a water in my hand, and I projected it because everybody was like up out of their seats, but I just happened to have water that was completely open. And so that provoked some reactions, but we were all very high energy after that. But the gentleman next to me, there was like 5 or 6 dudes, and they were on their phones the whole time. And I started talking to them and realized they were really into sports betting, which I've never been into that, for many reasons, but, a lot of people were sweating, and watching them become so physically uncomfortable because they were losing so much money, or like they were dealing with whatever, watching the fights, they were so much more investment. I watched this guy like hit his buddy, and he's like, I just lost $10,000. I'm fucking out of here. I forget which fight it was, and he like got up and stormed out, and we weren't even to the Jones fight yet. But I was like, that made me feel bad. That made me want to check my bank account. Like, geez.
I know that would ruin sports for me.
Yeah, no, I know. I get it. I get how it can be addictive and things like that. But yeah, there was a lot of different energy going on. Another thing that I noticed consistently when you're actually at an event, whether it's NEF or anything, is people that boo when wrestling or jiu-jitsu is happening, and like people are on the ground, where it's like you don't understand how hard that is, because they consider it boring. But it's like you have to remember, like I guess there's all kinds of different fight fans, people that just want to watch the violence or into whatever, but not really into the more technical side. But like that's some serious sport going on and is very technical. And back to UFC's original question, what's the best martial arts? It's jiu-jitsu. but in my opinion, but yeah, it's always interesting to be in a group and the energy you feel from watching these fights. Yeah, I'm sure the energy was pretty tense for you after Whitaker after that injury. What do you think his disposition is now going forward for Whitaker?
Oh man, it's so hard to say honestly, because I really think had he have won, there's no question about him getting a title shot. But now, not only did he lose to Dricus, but now he's lost to Hamzat too. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's really tough because it's like, yeah, like where the hell do you even put him in this division? Where it's like you can't put him against Izzy. That already makes no sense. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of like who the hell in this weight class would even like, you know, it's like he's fought Strickland, he's fought Adesanya, and it's like it seems backwards for him to fight anybody else, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see him fight Nasruddin Imavov. I don't want to see him fight Caio Borralho. I don't want to see him fight Marvin Vettori.
Yeah, I don't want to see him fight. No. I get what you're saying, where it does feel like at some point in a division where I think that's why certain, like, I feel like light heavyweight or heavyweights are always divisions that people are going to want to watch no matter what. But it does get to a point where certain divisions, it's like they're recycling the same people, or they're having to go down and matching people that shouldn't be, you know, contending with this person. You get a lot of those weird fights where it's like somebody that's, you know, 14 fighting somebody that's a number 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of, and maybe this is like a weird comparison, but I feel like maybe Whitaker is headed in that like Dustin Poirier lane, where it's like, let's just get him some great exhibition fights. We know he puts on a hell of a fight, but we also are aware that we've given him plenty of chances to earn and retain the title, and unfortunately couldn't do so, much like Dustin. But it doesn't negate their ability to fight and put on a great show and their like technical prowess. They just haven't been the best. And so it's like, I don't know who you would put him up against yet, but it's like, I feel like Whitaker needs more of these like Hamzat kind of fights where it's like, it's more of like a ego and pride thing on the line than a title.
Yeah. I think that makes for better fights for a lot of people. Yeah, there's like a line between like, yeah, shit talk and beef, but also like having it be motivating in a different sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would motivate Whitaker? I mean, I feel like Adesanya and Whitaker was one that was motivating at the time, but do you put him against Izzy again?
Well, it's like he could come out on top against Izzy, but it's like, what does it mean against the Izzy that's lost his title to Sean Strickland, that you know, that still got beat by Alex Bejeda in the UFC? You know, it like he just doesn't have a lot going for him, so it's like not the same as getting revenge for your title loss.
Yeah. Understood. The lore is lacking.
Yeah. And
Topuria, though, his lore is exceeding growing very quickly. Right. I think that the same thing with Pereira. I always pronounce his name wrong. Where all of a sudden he's the boogeyman. Like I think Topuria Ilya is just that his lore is exceptionally renowned now.
Ilya and Hamzat fucking ruined my whole weekend.
Yeah.
That was so fucking sad. And I think what makes it harder about Ilya too, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, it's his outside octagon shit that I hate so much. It's this like him trying to act like Conor McGregor, getting the same tattoos, saying all this outlandish fucking press conference shit. It's like he just is such an asshole, and he looks so dumb. Like, he's the guy at the bar that you would like make fun of for trying too hard to like pick up a girl. You know, like he just has like a weird energy about him that's like, bro, this takes away from the aura that you have as this like matador, magnificent friggin' fighter. But it's like, I just hate him because it's like I spend all the weeks leading up to his fights just listening to him just be the worst fucking kind of person ever. And so it's hard to root for him because it's like, dude, you just sound like an asshole. And then of course he beats Max, and now he's super gracious and I didn't even want to fight him. It was such an honor and blah. It's like, well, you could have fucking said this in the lead up and we would have been happy about whoever won. But you were a schmuck about it, and so nobody is happy to see you win.
Yeah, my notes for that was Max had a bad night. I don't think this really tarnishes anything just because it like, you know, put Topuria to glory or, you know, showcased him in a way that was very helpful for his career, and he has an exceptional record. But for Max Holloway, it's like, it's not like it was a bad night. It was, everybody gets caught, whatever. It's disappointing because I wanted Holloway also to take it home, but at the same time, it doesn't tarnish anything. I think that
because the thing is, like, that knockout wasn't even as bad as Holloway's knockout of Gaethje.
Right. Oh, man.
Gaethje didn't wake up for like a couple minutes. He was face down on the mat. Max literally just like you could have almost called it a TKO. It wasn't like he was like, you know what I mean? Like the ref kind of like did what they needed to do.
Yeah.
But Max was up and talking and like was fine afterwards. And it's just like you said, it was like, it just wasn't his night, you know? But I agree that it doesn't take anything away from his legacy. Just like the Alex fights. Like, I love Volkanovski. I think Volk is phenomenal inside, outside. I just think he's a fantastic person. And so watching those fights was really hard because it was like, man, either guy that wins fucking deserves it. But it was so easy to get behind Volk because he was such a good person. And he understood the legacy that he was involved with in having this trilogy with Holloway. Like, it made it a more exciting fight to watch because you knew these guys like feared each other and you knew they respected each other's power and ability. And it just didn't feel the same way on this card tonight. It didn't feel like a lot of people really respected one another. And so the fights either ended super fast or they dragged out.
Yeah. So what do you think next for Holloway?
Oh, man, it's so tough, dude, because he's another one where it's like, well, you can't give him another title shot right now. You know what I mean? At this point, he's had 3 title losses to Volk and now a title loss to Topuria. So it's just not reasonable. And I personally think Volk deserves a rematch. I think that is the next fight for Topuria. But knowing the UFC hype machine, I also wouldn't be surprised if Diego Lopez ends up getting the next title shot. And so I think that it's going to be tied with those 4 people somehow, which I think that it's either going to be Diego and Topuria for the title, or it's going to be Max and Diego for title contention after Volk and Topuria rematch.
Yeah, I'm looking up the list right now. Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree.
You know, it's like the rankings are so weird. Like Brian Ortega, like no disrespect to Brian Ortega, but like you're not climbing the rankings by beating him at this point, you know?
No, not at all.
That's like one of these like exhibition fights, as I would call it, you know? Like it matters for something, but just not the title.
Yeah. I do understand like the UFC hype machine and trying to get money for fights rather than like That is one thing that I would like to see change in the future is how fight matchups go. I do like in the PFL how it's kind of, or how the UFC originally intended to have it like a bracket system, like wrestling. I'm probably using the wrong term there, where really it's just this fight, you naturally fight this guy next, and so on.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Because it's like I do love these power fights or things that draw attention, and some of them more than others. But at the same time, it definitely isolates and ostracizes certain fighters that could or should be contending with the top 5, so to speak. But will they ever change that? I don't know.
I know matchmaking is so weird because it's like, I don't know. I mean, because even the tournament style, right? Like, essentially the tournament is fighting through the rankings, except for the rankings happen only in that tournament.
Right.
And that's why PFL does seasons. And so it's like an interesting concept, but I think that it's almost wholly unique to them. I think in UFC, the big issue is the rankings, because we as the fans don't seem to understand who is in charge of the rankings. Dana has come out and said that he's not involved in the rankings, and he doesn't support the people who are. So like, who the hell is responsible for these rankings, and what are the qualifiers that would say like, okay, I fought Diego Lopez tonight and I won. I was number 6 and he was number 3. So what is my win over him? Like, what is the qualifier for that? Because sometimes you'll see people jump 1 or 2 spots. Sometimes you'll see them trade spots with the person that they beat. But it's not clear. Like, we could never dictate and be like, oh, okay, Kamaru Usman beat Hamzat tonight, so now he's going to be number 3 in the rankings. Like, we just don't know until that shit comes out, and then everybody like throws their hands up and they're like, I don't know why it happens like this.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'd like to sit in on that room and see how that goes, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you rectify that.
I don't either, and it's tough because I know it's a double-edged sword too, where it's like the fighters get offered 3 fights a year as part of their contract. So it's like they have to be offered 3 fights. And it's like, what happens if they don't accept? It's like, it's on them if they don't accept. The UFC just has to offer it to them. So that's like the double-edged sword too, where it's like, we don't always know, are the matchmakers making good and bad fights, or are the matchmakers making fights based on who's willing to sign a contract in time?
Yeah, that's true, because what would be the reason for some fighters going so long in between fights compared to others, if not, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, there should definitely be I think a time limit imposed for how long. I like, maybe there be something in contract saying like, oh, if you don't fight in 3 fucking years, or something, or in such time. I think that you should be pretty consistent if you're under contract of how many fights per, like, not only a certain amount of fights on your contract, but fights within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Unless, there's injury or other sustaining things that would bar you from that. Although, I mean, they have dealt with that before by taking away belt privileges, or, the belt being up to 2 people or things like that. But still.
Yeah. And that's how we get into all this interim mess too. But sometimes you need that. It's like, what would heavyweight look like if we didn't have an interim heavyweight champion right now?
Yeah.
It'd be the messiest division imaginable.
Yes. Yeah, no, I know we've been talking about UFC 308, but I am wondering what's going to happen with heavyweight once maybe John Jones is out of the picture going forward. I think that's going to be the next big shakeup, that fight in New York. And that's that's this month, right?
Yeah, that's like I think it's in a couple weeks. So that's one of these fights where it's like both of these guys have said they're going to retire. And so if that really happens, now we have an interim heavyweight champion who can't unify the belt. I mean, it'll get unified on principle, but like he can't unify it traditionally. And then he's pretty much taken out everybody in the rankings. What's it going to be? Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane? I like Cyril Gane, but I'll tell you that nobody wants to see that fucking fight. Like,
yeah. It's not gonna be the same kind of draw.
Cyril Gane needs to take out like one or two more opponents the way that he was before John Jones and Francis.
Yeah.
Like, he had a beautiful run up until the Francis fight, and he looked so fucking lost in that fight. And then the John Jones fight was almost worse. And he was supposed to be on the 308 card and pulled off because of, I think he's like doing a movie or some shit.
I wondered why that fight didn't come to fruition. That's why?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird.
But that kind of happens sometimes where there's, really awkward stages of certain divisions. And then all of a sudden it's like, everybody's watching this, everybody's watching that. I'd really love, I know this is like a throw out kind of thing, but in I guess my modern stages of fighters that I really support and
Oh no, you froze up. I lost you after in the modern ages.
Oh, okay. I was talking about Derek Lewis and how I wish that he could come. I have seen his progression, and I wouldn't even say regression. I think it was really the way he came into the UFC. He's had to be conditioned and things like that, and got harder and harder fights and things like that. But I have it deep inside me that somehow he starts climbing the ladder here.
That would be so. I would love to see that.
Yeah, that's a fighter I think behind characteristically and just like style and everything like that. He brings a lot of energy whether he's winning or losing. People love him. He's the people's champ. Yeah.
If these guys tried harder to earn title contention, Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa would be two of the funnest fighters to watch in heavyweight.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I love Tai Tuivasa so much, but it's the same shit where last couple times he's come out, it's like, I don't know if you just didn't want to be there or if you had a bad camp or if it just wasn't your night or what, but it's like, man, like this guy used to eat fists and like eat kicks, and now it's like he's just kind of fallen out of favor, it seems.
Yeah, I think I actually was just looking at a list and it shows fight records. He's lost the last 5 fights that he's done.
Oh
he hasn't won since 2022, which might have been the Derek Lewis fight.
Probably. That's fucking heartbreaking. And
I have a soft spot for the heavyweights because you're more likely to see the knockout. You're more likely to get that extra violence there.
Seems like the division with the most variables.
Yeah. And we lost Ngannou, so that definitely degrades us a little bit in the UFC. His win just the other day. Did you watch the Ngannou fight? I didn't watch it. I just heard that
I didn't watch it live, but I watched it like the clip after the fact. I think it was PFL, right? He was fighting for the PFL heavyweight title.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it almost looked like the Cyril Gane fight, honestly. It was like I don't know. I haven't watched enough of Renan Fajeda's fights to like have an accurate assessment, but I would love to see those guys fight again.
Yeah, I feel like, Dana really, I don't quite understand what happened with his falling out of the UFC. Do you? I don't know. That's not my way.
My understanding of it is that Ngannou was trying to enact like overall changes that had to do with shit greater than him. Like he wanted like fight like clauses in fighter contracts and like certain shit that was like that Dana just wasn't gonna nobody was gonna allow, because it's like basically the kind of shit that they allowed for Conor, right? But like the reason they allow it for Conor is because there will never be another Conor McGregor. Whether you like him or hate him or what, like the guy is the guy who brought the sport to the mainstream, So it's like you have to make exceptions for people that generate the kind of revenue that he does simply by showing his face. And they proved it. They did a boxing match with Floyd Mayweather. It wasn't some like no-name boxer on Showtime or some shit like that. You know what I mean? It's like when they put Conor McGregor in there, he gets involved in the biggest things possible. Francis Ngannou, all the respect and love to him, especially when he was leaving the UFC, wasn't at that point. And then the Tyson Fury fight kind of proved that. And then the Anthony Joshua fight after. It's like, dude, this is what, like, I get that you probably got a bag, so like more power to you for that. But like you essentially left being the heavyweight champ and having the chance to fight John Jones so that you could lose to Tyson Fury, then get knocked out by Anthony Joshua, and then go back to MMA in the B League. Just doesn't feel right, No,
not. Yeah, I understand fighters wanting to get into the bureaucraticness of what's happening and have more control over their careers. But yeah, you're right. Those are reserved for people like Conor McGregor that do have that influence. No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, I hope he's very successful. Yeah, that was a weird move. That was a weird transition. It's not as bad as like going to Power Slap,
Yeah, for sure.
On that, which baffles me. But that was definitely a stain, a rough period. But I hear his comeback went really well. I didn't watch the fight. Again, it's hard to follow it all and to keep up with it all.
That's how I feel. There was a point in my life where I would keep up with the UFC. I kept up with Glory Kickboxing. I would watch ADCC every like 2 years or whatever it is. And I was watching Flow Grappling. And so I was like trying to keep my head like in all of these different worlds and like understand what was going on. And it's just so hard to keep up with everything. And then I'll never forget the night that there was a UFC pay-per-view going on while ADCC was happening. And so it was like, I had my laptop open with ADCC and that had 4 screens on it already for the different mats because they had different matches going on at the same time. And then I had the UFC pay-per-view on and I just realized it's like, I'm not paying attention to either of these things. And like, this is more work than it's worth. And so I just kind of like fell out of a lot of that shit. And it's like, I still like, I'll like watch Flow Grappling docs from time to time, or I'll like see who's competing in ADCC. Even now it's like ADCC's all fucked up now. And now you got the CJI, the Craig Jones Invitational. And that was apparently like phenomenal this year. So it's like, now you're going to have competing jiu-jitsu tournaments on top of all of these other like micro events, There was another great jiu-jitsu thing that used to happen in England. I don't know why I can't remember the name of it. But it was like another great tournament that would happen every year, and a bunch of UFC fighters would go and fight in their off between fights and shit. And
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen some exhibitions like that where I think that Donald Cerrone has hosted a couple of them where people will just go, different fighters or, combat sports veterans will go and do grappling events.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu.
Polaris was the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the Chael Sonnen grappling thing now too.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of different leagues or different things happening. Who are some fighters that you're looking forward to seeing in the future? Like fighters that are not necessarily who you're expecting to be on a card, or young talent, so to speak.
I got a couple people, honestly. I'm sure some of them will be a surprise, some of them won't. Big shout out to Ben Anthony real quick, who just dropped us a comment on the Facebook chat. Ben is going to be on the show on Monday, November 11th. Ben is the founder and coach of the New Hampshire skateboarding camp. So he's going to be on the show talking about how he got the whole New Hampshire skateboarding camp started, what they're doing for indoor skateboarding this year. Really cool shit. So big thanks to him for tuning in. Shout out to everybody that's been in here. Fighters that right? Skateboarding is not a crime, straight up. Consolidated Skateboards represent. Calvin Kattar.
Yep.
I need Calvin Kattar to have a comeback. That's probably somebody that I was riding for so hard for a long time, that just after the Max Holloway fight just hasn't been able to get the momentum back. But I think the guy is phenomenal, and I think he's just another person that has had too much time between fights, and it's not serving him a favor.
One that stuck out for me that I wasn't sure where it would go watching in my Contender series, but Raul Rosa.
Yes.
The youngest fighter in the UFC. I think he was 17.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm excited to see where that career goes. He's done really well so far. I think that's a matter of genetics and youth there combo. Good for him.
And that's just good family support too. You know what I mean? That's got to take a lot to be qualified enough of a fighter to make it to the UFC by the time you're 17. You know that your family had to be involved in your pre-UFC life to get you to that point.
Yeah, I've had people ask me if you have kids, what are your thoughts about them doing combat sports and things like that? And I wish that everybody to some degree had some grappling experience or jiu-jitsu experience and things like that. Or to, it would be great if it was something that could be done in a secondary or primary or secondary level, especially with primary age kids. Those kids rock at wrestling. It was so good for them and have some bodily control and just that body self-awareness. Nothing has really taught me that as much as jiu-jitsu and wrestling has.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's but I would, I can't imagine how, I'm sure that it's fantastic to see this young man's career just skyrocket and be in a completely different position than he was just a few years ago, in high school and being a regular kid. But at the same time, it would be terrifying. It'd be to watch my 17-year-old son just be absolutely thrashed or in the throes with grown men.
Right. Ben said it's super important if around the right people. Combat sports is so good for the mental and learning self-control. Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. That's one of those things that when I did kickboxing and jiu-jitsu for a while in my life, and that had a profound impact on how I saw the world and my propensity for anger management, my propensity for stress control. It was hard to keep up with training like that full time, so that's why I've just kind of transitioned to my own little exercise regimens now. But the things that I met, the experiences I went through, the people that I met through doing martial arts was unlike any other people I've met. It just really is like takes a different kind of heart to do that of your own volition.
Absolutely. And just, that I think it to have that kind of self-awareness with, not necessarily with the intention of fight, but the intention of what's the word? What am I trying to think of? I'm trying to, my point is going a little bit faster than my mouth. That feeling of actually using those skills for de-escalation rather than escalation. Like it, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously we get to channel that through things like combat sports and MMA and, but at the same time, actually what these things teach us is de-escalation and how to prevent violence. Or at least there's like a huge emphasis on that with jujitsu. I lost my other point there, but
no, but you were spot on. Yeah, Ben said showing empathy maybe, and I think that kind of goes to what you were saying, where it's like learning these skills as to like, people look at it as like we're trained to hurt people, but in reality, it's like we're trained to protect ourselves and prevent people from getting hurt. It's like I'd much rather have a black belt in jujitsu choke me out at the bar when I'm being an asshole than some random bro who doesn't know what he's doing and is going to like cut off the circulation in my brain. One of those people is going to have the impact that gets me out of a situation safely and de-escalates it. The other person is going to put me in more danger. And so it's like going to what you say almost, it's like I wish that there was a way that like schools would implement things like jujitsu and wrestling and stuff. I know high schools have like wrestling teams and whatnot, but I don't think it's always like as easily accessible necessarily. Or maybe, I've also been a long time since I was in high school. So, but I just think like, man, if I could have taken jujitsu in high school and like, one of my like blocked schedules for the day was just to like go and train, I think I would have been a vastly different person in school. Having that kind of understanding and technique and the ability to exhaust that frustration that you have, especially at that age in life. Like,
yeah, I definitely wish there was more accessibility to the sport. I don't know where you live exactly, but I live in a very rural area and I had to travel 45 minutes to go to classes. I now have a hip injury, so I've stopped going to classes, but I've thought about taking up boxing to mitigate because I struggle with a clamshell motion because I have a labral tear.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, PT, shout out to my physical therapist. They've got me about 80% to where I was. But I haven't participated in jiu-jitsu in quite a while. But yeah, 45 minutes. And you're training for a couple of hours depending on how long you want to roll after. That's a serious investment. Time, money, and otherwise. Especially if you're not training towards something. It'd be one thing if I was like competing, but yeah, that's really hard. But I've sat in on kids classes and stuff and it's unbelievable. And I just wish that there were more gyms where I live, particularly in rural Maine. And yeah, just more accessibility to it overall. There's a large culture to push women out of doing these things at a younger age. It's kind of weird. I had an inverse reaction when I was young. I wanted to do wrestling and not do basketball. And that wasn't allowed. And that, well, not because of the school, but because of family and other influences.
Yeah.
And as an adult, when I wanted to train and I like did some Sambo classes and whatever, it was very highly supported. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, I think it would be really cool. We could take out maybe not dodgeball, but other ridiculous things like the stereotypical things you might do in a gym class. What's the word I'm looking for?
Trivial?
Huh?
Maybe trivial?
Oh yeah, some of the trivial things that we might do in gym class, but trade it out for even just basic skills. and understanding your body and other people's body and violence. I mean, I know I used to be a school teacher, and there is a heavy increase in, mental health issues and a larger population of students coming in with issues pertaining to violence and disturbing classrooms, things like that. And I think that it would be great to have more practical skills or understanding or teaching kids about preventing violence or, bodily control with martial arts. But hey, I guess that's my soapbox for today for that. But
I'm with you. I feel you on that. And that's cool that you used to work with kids too, because that definitely gives you some more insight on it's one thing to have been a kid and that's your experience, but it's another thing to really have a grasp on what kids are going through today, because it's so vastly different. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 35. So when I was in high school, the world was a vastly different place, and our use of technology and all, the way that we approached things and the thing, it's kids are just so much more mature now, and they have so much more information than we ever had. And as great as that can be, it's also so dangerous and so scary at times too. And so it's we don't always know how well that stuff is wielded.
Yeah, and it's I'm 30, and I was a kindergarten teacher and a Montessori teacher for 8 years over the span of my 20s. And I didn't think that I started working in schools when I was 20. And I didn't think I was that far removed, but I was the youngest teacher in the rural school district that I worked for. And I very quickly, would consult the other teachers, what kids seem so different, or classrooms seem so different than when I was in school. How have you seen things change over the years? And it was very validating because like I said, I wasn't that far removed of participating in a similar environment in secondary school and college. College is a completely different thing for everybody, but for secondary and primary schools, there's a lot more accommodations and use of technology in a way that was never implemented in the classroom. There are physical deficiencies that kids are struggling with as a result of technologies, where kids were really struggling. A lot of kids require OT and PT at a much younger age because of kids developing differently, being introduced to technology and not using their physical body, not using their gross motor skills. A lot of kids with very low core strength, and kids that really struggled to just be outside, climb on things, whatever, because they just really didn't have that strength. That was a huge wake up call of kids aren't they're not participating in the world, and I guess in that way, or as often. I'm generalizing. I'm not saying the whole population of students was like that, or that some of them were outside eating dirt, but there was a large amount of kids that were below average in gross motor and other skills for comparatively to previous decades. And at an exponential rate of these specialized services that only were for a couple of kids per grade, maybe, or weren't even services that were applied in schools, and now are regular, you have an OT person in the building because there's 5 in every classroom that need those services now. So it's quite different, but anyway.
Yeah, it's friggin' heartbreaking to think of it in that capacity, where it's these kids aren't even capable of going outside and playing on the gym equipment like we used to. You know what I mean? You just you don't really think of it in that kind of perspective until you see it firsthand. And it's just holy shit.
Yeah, and I mean, any research will tell you that kids need to be physically active in order to attain or to stay on task and have academic and educational development, you need to also do they offer jujitsu in the school systems? Not that I've ever seen.
That's kind of what we were tapping into, is like
wrestling, and youth wrestling is very popular. That's the thing.
I think jujitsu would be huge in schools, especially because it's something that you can continue on with year after year. So it's like you could in theory get your white belt in elementary school and get your black belt by the time you graduate high school. And you might only have 3 instructors. And if you live in a community where most of the I live in Nashua, New Hampshire. So it's like a big city. It's like almost like Manchester, a little smaller than Manchester. So we have like multiple friggin' elementary schools, multiple junior highs, high schools, whatever. But I think of like a lot of smaller towns, it's like, 75% of the kids go to, XYZ elementary, and then they all move to, wear grounds and whatever. And it's like, if all these kids in this school system are all kind of moving in the same rate, then the instructors could all create the what do you call it? Like the curriculum. It's like they could create a curriculum that would start you in your early elementary school years, and you'd get your white belt, and then every couple of years you would test and move up and invent, hopefully, even if you didn't get your black belt by the time you graduated, even if you had a blue belt or a brown belt, that's going to be a phenomenal set of life skills to take with you into the real world.
Yeah, or even if it wasn't jujitsu, just like basic self-defense. I already have, some red tape up in my mind of how parents would respond to that. But at the same time, I mean, like, I think that there are a lot of skills that you can apply without having kids that are untrained hurt each other in that capacity. But just, more clubs. Oh, sorry, I was distracted by the what is that? Longbeard Ninja Master. I love that.
Longboard.
Oh, longboard. Okay.
So big shout out to Ryan. Thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate you always. Ryan's one of our diehards, longtime supporter. But,
rounding out what I was saying though is that physical activity in schools is highly supported. That kids need more physical activity during school, but what I saw was a drastic reduction all the time of kids' abilities to get outside and be physical during the school day. Their technology requirement far exceeded how much time they were spending outside, which I was very uncool with. Personally as a teacher, and my first year, I actually had 11 boys to 5 girls. So it was a very physical room. I had to take a lot of like body breaks and movement breaks. And, sometimes I'd have kids I'd be like, oh, show Miss Suey how many push-ups you can do. Things like that. But I would love to see more diversity of clubs and things like that. I think some people would argue that wrestling kind of meets that need. What would you think would be the biggest difference between a kid choosing to train jujitsu versus wrestling? Did you ever do wrestling or anything growing up? Or
I didn't train wrestling like at school or anything like that, but we like learned wrestling through like being at the Mixed Martial Arts Academy and shit. So I obviously like got familiar with it, and it was like the same thing when I was watching jujitsu tournaments and ADCC and stuff. Flow Grappling would cover wrestling, so I would watch like the Bo Nichols and those kind of people and take an interest in how that was going. But it's like, I could definitely see where you're coming from, where I think the layman's person would say like, oh, well, wrestling and jujitsu kind of like cover the same territory. But I think when you start getting into it, it's almost like saying lacrosse and baseball are the same thing, where it's like, just because there's a ball and a stick doesn't mean that it's like teaching you the same skill set and you're not taking the same thing from it, where it's like both of those things. Like baseball is going to teach you immense skills. You have the risk of getting hurt and you have the risk of becoming a champion. lacrosse is very much the same way. You know, you've got a stick and a ball, and you've got a chance of getting hurt and a chance of becoming a champion. And so it's like, there's not, and obviously I'm not like degrading those sports. I'm just using those as examples, like as somebody who's not nuanced in them. But when you look at jiu-jitsu and wrestling, it's like kids that get into wrestling oftentimes have different life goals than somebody that would get into jiu-jitsu. And because of that, you're going to take different things away from it. And like the kids that do wrestling, for example, are also going to do weightlifting because that just kind of comes with the territory. The kids that do jiu-jitsu probably aren't going to do weightlifting. They're probably going to do gymnastics or calisthenics or aerobics or any number of things that is going to focus on their mobility and their limberness and their, you know, and so that's like, now you're focusing on two different groups of kids in school, where it's like a kid that's not intimidated by the weight room and by like being in a very like machismo kind of atmosphere will take to wrestling very well. And it's a great competitive sport and you're going to take a lot from it. But then think about all those kids that like were almost like anti-sport, you know, kids that never wanted to be on a team, kids that like couldn't see themselves wearing a varsity jacket at school, kids, you know what I mean? Like we all like either were or knew those kids that were never going to be on the school football team or whatever the case. Jiu-jitsu in my eyes is almost like skateboarding, where it's like you can be on a team, but it's always an individual sport. Like you're always doing it for you. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it at the end of the day. And I think that because of that, jiu-jitsu gives you a lot of life skill to take that is, I don't know how to say it. It's like jiu-jitsu gives you a little more, I guess, like metaphorical skill set as well as the physical endurance and all of that. And not to say that wrestling doesn't. I just think that like when I think of jiu-jitsu, I think of chess. When I think of wrestling, I think of like suffocation and like takedown and like physical empowerment, you know, and weight leveraging and things like that.
Yeah, I really liked what you said about the conditioning aspects. I never really took that into account or never thought of it that way, of how much the different types of conditioning for a very similar sport, and the types of people that are involved in them. Yeah, that is quite interesting, and true. You mentioned a name that I was actually going to bring up earlier, Bo Nickel. Have you ever seen anything quite like his notoriety coming in, like when he was on the Contender Series, that like everybody knew that he was just gonna like I've never seen such a line jumper.
Yeah, very seldom for sure.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, not that he hasn't backed it up, so to speak, but what do you think is going to happen with his career? It's pretty early, but he is.
It's hard to say, but I do feel like if he doesn't fuck it up, he's on like a rocket ship to success, right? Like the guy already owns wrestling schools, so it's like he's done more with his life than most people who have been in the UFC for 10 plus years have done in their personal life. You know what I mean? Like this guy's already won. I don't know if he's been in the Olympics, but I know he's won like countless NCAA wrestling tournaments. He ended up even competing in jiu-jitsu and competed against Gordon Ryan, who's considered the greatest jiu-jitsu player alive right now. So he's like, and just getting into the UFC, let alone getting on the Contender Series. I think that right now they're trying to make the most exciting fights for him, and I'm not super crazy about that. It feels a little like Sean O'Malley-ish almost, where it's like, all right, how do we set up the greatest exhibitions of what you do? But I think that Bo Nickel is very, very talented, and I think that he's going to be capable of doing a lot more than just the wrestling and just the shit that we expect. I think this guy's going to come in with hands, and he's going to learn how to utilize all this shit. And if he does, he's going to be a fucking problem.
Yeah, no, he's clearly an incredible athlete. So if he can be diverse, then yeah, that I like that word problem. I think he's fighting on the Jones fight.
Oh, I think you're right. Who is he? I need to look it up now. Who the fuck is he fighting? Was that 309 the next one?
Yes.
Oh, he's fighting Paul Craig on that card. That's a monster fight right there.
I actually don't know much about Paul Craig, so edify me.
Paul Craig is essentially like a British grappling monster. This guy has like an insane amount of submission wins, and he's one of these people that just has a propensity to like jump on the floor and make everything happen for himself.
Bear Jew.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm not totally like super familiar with him or like know a lot about him, but I do know that name. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a good fight for Bo Nickel because it's like Paul Craig has some losses recently. He's by no means a perfectly rounded fighter, but in terms of like, that's a classic wrestling versus jiu-jitsu match right there.
Sweet.
Man, that card is just friggin' crazy too. You got Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler on that card as well.
Yeah,
that's gonna be an insane rematch. Chris Weidman's on this card.
Will there be? Doesn't the UFC usually have like a break before the new year? Do you think this is the last one?
No, they have 310 in December, and that'll be the last one.
Okay.
I just know that because I've been scheduling out episodes of the show, and I was hoping that if this one went well, that we'd end up doing more like post pay-per-view fight kind of things, because a lot of people were chatting about it when I posted about it. So,
but did people lose interest? How is I mean, this is probably not I know we're kind of almost having personal conversation rather than a podcast-esque type thing going on right now. But as far as what you're trying to do, you want to follow up with pay-per-view fights on a regular basis, or is there other aspects of your show? At the beginning, you were talking about local music that's happening, which I think is awesome. And then led into talking about the fights. Is that going to be the platform of your show going forward, or what are your?
So it's fun. So it's funny that it's cool that you asked this because, so I don't know if Ryan told you or whatever, or if you picked up, but I'm a musician. So, so doing like hip hop music is kind of my first thing. And then me and my partner, we run a record label here together as well. So we like put out records for other people as well as putting out our own shit. And I've wanted to do podcasting for a while because I just need like another creative outlet where I make music so fast, but then there's always these periods of time that just have to happen, whether it's we're booking a tour or we're getting the album mastered or whatever the case is. And I thrive on like having shit to do. Yeah. So I've started a handful of podcasts, but what happens is like I started a podcast called Hellhound Athletics, and it was all geared on MMA and athletics and weight loss and all this. And so I had a bunch of good guests, but I couldn't keep the momentum up. There was just only so many people I knew before it ran out of steam. And then I really love movies. So then I started Hellhound Film Club. And it was like, all right, we're going to talk about movies and directors, and I'm going to get people from music to talk about the movies that inspire them. And it was the same thing. And so I kind of like came to this precipice of like, I can't put myself in a box anymore. If I'm going to do this, I have to have some sort of like open canvas. And so No Sugar Added came from one of the songs on me and my partner Byron's brand new album, Giant Steps in Gate City. The second song is called No Sugar Added. And it's really just about like just being brutally honest with people, not like gassing people up, just kind of taking things at face value and being brutally honest. And so it kind of just clicked while we were releasing the album that it was like, man, if I did a show called No Sugar Added, then I could really talk about whatever I want as long as I'm just being honest with people and I'm not holding things back. And so the focus of the show, and I hate to make this comparison because it's like, by no means am I trying to like parallel myself in any capacity, but like, I would say this is almost like my little like Joe Rogan corner of the world, where like today we could talk about MMA, but next week I have a chef on. And then the week after that, I have a photographer on. And then the week after that, I think there's another UFC recap. And so it's really just about spotlighting the things that I'm interested in, but also spotlighting the people that like participate or excel at those things too. I've been really lucky that I've been able to do music as long as I have, and hip hop music has like brought me all over the world and given me a really cool life and introduced me to all sorts of great people. But so much of what I do in hip hop is inspired by these other things. Like I have my love for cinema, my love for mixed martial arts, my love for motorcycles, my love of skateboarding, all these different things really like all compose who I am as a person. And so I just kind of decided like this is going to be my outlet to talk about this shit. You know, it's like people listen to my songs and they'll hear certain things that I say and they won't necessarily pick up on a reference or whatever. And I feel like this podcast is kind of a cool way for people to understand those bigger things that we're talking about, where it's like, you know, like I have a song called I Want All the Smoke that came out on an album a couple of years ago. So it's funny because of everything that's happened since, but I put this album out in 2021, and one of the lyrics on the song, it says, "My bong's like Khalil Roundtree, kick to your ribs," because it was a reference to when Khalil Roundtree was on Contender Series and he friggin' soccer kicked his opponent in the ribs to get the TKO. And like at the time, people didn't really know Khalil Roundtree, nor did they follow Contender Series, but they just heard this comparison of this guy that I'm talking about and the bong rip and whatever. And fast forward to 3 years later, and Khalil Roundtree just had his first attempt at a title shot. And so it's really cool to have this platform where I can like go back and be like, guys, the reason I was so gassed up about this guy and the reason that I thought he was so special, now he's living it out. Like now you can see why I thought he was so special, and you can start to figure this out for yourself. And so just doing this show is just basically giving me an excuse to talk about the shit that matters, because I love music. And so obviously I'm going to talk about music on here too, but it's like, man, like all of my friends are like from like a lot of my friends are musicians. And so when we get together, we're talking about music, whether it's going to shows, watching bands, the state of music, da 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 da. And I love it, but it's like I also wish I had more friends in these like little subgroups where it's like I love movie and cinemas a lot, but I have like less than a handful of friends that I can like nerd out with and be like, oh, so when I was watching the Citizen Kane 4K remaster recently, I noticed, you know, it's like I don't have those kind of things. So this is kind of my platform to just do something cool on a Monday night.
Yeah, be a hype guy for the things that give you life. No, I feel like I live on references. With the quotes that I say, funny voices that I do, whatever is all a culmination of videos or media or things that I've consumed in my life that stuck with me for one reason or another. And no, I know what you mean. I look for opportunities to like, because I have a lot. I don't know how you operate with your phone. I always think people's phone life is interesting, like how people set things up, app or whatever. But I use my notes app a lot. And I have this long list of movies that I love or want to show people, or if people bring things up, I'll bring up that list and reference it a lot. But I look for opportunities to share those things for the same reason. I don't really have a platform to do that otherwise. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess there's always the internet, and I'm sure there's enough Facebook groups or so on and so forth that you could do, but it's different than actually talking to somebody or experiencing it with them firsthand. I actually had a moment like that today because I just got back right before I sat in for this. I went to go see Terrifier 3, which is
that's sick.
So I am a longtime Terrifier fan to the point where I actually donated a ton of money to the second film, and my name's in the credits. If you're ever watching the credits of Terrifier 2, I'm in there.
No, Byron, I hope you're watching this right now. We got to go check that. Yo, my man Byron, that is my partner in my music group.
Yeah.
Me, him, and my girlfriend just watched Terrifier 2 like earlier this year.
Okay.
And we found it on like a total accident, and we all like fell in love with it and went back and watched the first one. We went back and watched the anthology with Art the Clown.
Yep.
And so, man, that's so crazy that you brought that up. He's gonna flip his shit whenever he sees this.
Yeah, I absolutely love the films, and I went to the premiere of the second one. It was because I knew I'd been long awaiting that movie, but because of COVID and whatever, it was pushed like almost 2 years out, if I remember correctly. But so with the third one, I would have loved to have seen it when it first came out, but I was in Spain. So I got to see it today, and one thing that I am on is Terrifier fan group pages. And that's just something that is just in my Rolodex on Facebook. But I was preemptively thinking that it wasn't going to be as good because of things that people had said, but it was actually, if you haven't seen it, you absolutely should. It's in contention with being better than the first, although I think the first is the absolute best. But it goes hard, and the kill scenes have layers, and it was really good. And I gotta say, the second one it was okay. It had some good, my favorite scene is the mashed potato scene, and there were some like really good moments, but overall I didn't love it like the first one, but the third one does it for me. Probably that first time I saw the movie. I've seen it a million times, and I usually don't rewatch movies. I'm not sure as a cinema guy how you feel about that, but I rarely rewatch movies unless it's something that I love. Like Bronson, that's a movie I've watched 1,000 times, and I could watch it tomorrow. But most of the time, if I've seen a movie once, I don't ever want to see it again, or don't, because there's other things to consume. But things like Terrifier, Bronson, and I have other movies that I will do that with. But
I definitely feel that there's some movies I can rewatch like all the time, but even like certain movies that I love, it's like I don't want to watch it again because it's not going to feel the same way. And it's like you have to go on that adventure and just have the memories of it.
Yeah, unless you get somebody else to watch it.
Exactly.
I'm not a big romance movie lady, but this movie Blue Valentine, if you ever need to cry, like it's a brutal one. It's not a rom-com by any means, but it's one that I cry every single time that I watch it, and I'm not a movie crier either. But I've watched it with so many people, and I'll put them through it, and at the end they'll be like, why would you do that? Like, why like, I like having somebody else have to go through that a little bit when you watch certain films. Like, yeah, you feeling this? Are you noticing this? Are you picking up on this? What's going on? That one's
that's funny. You know what? You said something that like made me think of this too. It like brings it back a bit. So at the top of the show, we did like obviously like music of the week, movie of the week, all that kind of shit. And so the song of the week that I did this week, or the music of the week, was I picked a song called "Talk for Hours" by High Vis, which is like this cool, like they're like a UK kind of like melodic hardcore band.
Okay.
And they have a new album out right now called Guided Tour, but they put out an album in 2022, and there's a song on it called "Talk for Hours." And when they play it live, the singer kind of tells the story. He's like, he kind of jokes, and he's like, this is a song about cocaine. Really, it's about the people that you meet at a bar and just how you end up talking to strangers and how you end up being so much more like ingratiated in those conversations than with people you know. And it's like, it's all about just having that like common point, you know, and obviously in the song, it's kind of just like alcohol and cocaine are the common point. But like, I think of, for me, like going, like doing music, doing things like even tonight is like a prime example. And that's why it's so funny. Cause it's like, I didn't know you from a hole in the wall before Ryan briefly introduced us on Facebook. And now we've got almost 2.5 hours of FaceTime just talking about and we both know so much of the same shit. And so it's like, man, where the fuck you been? You know, it's like, you have to do shit like this to figure out where other people are. I've realized, where it's like, if you don't tell anybody that you like something, you'll never find out. And so you just have to be the flag bearer for all the things that you think are cool in this life.
And to something else that you said, though, where those random conversations can be more in depth than conversations you have with people that you love and deal with every day in your life. Like, I love that about traveling and meeting new people, because it's kind of like what happened just now, where I'm sure our conversation took a lot of directions that you weren't, or neither of us anticipated, because we don't know each other. And started from a point, we're going to talk about a thing, but overall, could have gone in a lot of different directions. But and what it comes back around to, or what we know and what we love and what we bring to a conversation. It's kind of like a wild card when you're talking to strangers. So, although I think you're no longer a stranger. So
yeah, agreed. That's the thing. We have more in common than a lot of my friends and people I know in this life, and that's the cool thing. Now we can both bring those people into our world, and it's like, see, I'm not that crazy. I know a girl from Maine, and she's also spending her Saturday night taking notes, watching all these fights.
Yeah, now you're going to be in my meme Rolodex, so sorry, not sorry. Yeah.
Good. We're going to have to start like a group chat of just UFC friggin' memes. And anytime I get depressed over a fight, I'll just send a bunch of crying emojis your way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no context needed, because it's already being felt.
Exactly. You'll just know.
Yeah.
Oh man. Shit. Well, so we almost got through most of the fight anyways. I don't really necessarily care about some of these other fights, to be honest. There was I got to give props to Dan Ige. Dan Ige just seems like a bat out of hell, constantly taking these fucking last minute fights all the time. And he really controlled the first round. And the thing I noticed about that, though, is that he wasn't fearing Murphy's power at all. And so round 2, Murphy instantly took the momentum back. The one thing I liked about that fight the most, you familiar with Coach Eric Nixick?
Not particularly, no.
He's Francis Ngannou's coach, but he's also Dan Ige's coach and Sean Strickland's coach and a bunch of people. But he was coaching for Dan Ige, and he just gave him like some really great corner talk. And so that was like, I think that was honestly one of the best things of the fight, where it's like, I hate when coaches like gas their fighter up the wrong way. And it's like, just be brutally honest with them. Like it's your friend, you know?
Yeah.
And you saw Ige kind of like put his foot on the pedal after that. So I really wanted him to get it, but I called it before it was done. I was like, Murphy's going to get it 29-28, exactly what happened.
Yeah, I always get confused about coaches and corner talk as well. I mean, I've never been in that capacity at all. I'm not sure how much more if you have a little bit more experience being more experienced in gyms and whatnot, of like what's actually productive to say in those moments than other things. I guess because you can only get so technical with somebody who's just gotten, rammed for straights and whatever. But at the same time, like sometimes it's, so you said something that led me on this tangent, which is like something that was said you thought was productive and motivating for the continuation of the fight. But what would be something that's what do you expect somebody to say when they're cornering their fighter?
I mean, I guess an expected thing is always just being like, it's like I don't care for like the simple assessment of like, You're doing great out there. You just got to keep doing da da da. It's like,
cut that out. It's
Yeah.
too many, don't waste your breath. Like, what do I actually need to know?
exactly. Like, I have 15 minutes. Even if I just scored a perfect 10 round, just let me know to do exactly what I did before and explain why it's working.
Yeah.
You know? And just honesty, I think, is the biggest thing. Especially on this UFC 308 card, there were corners telling their fighters that they were up 2 rounds when it was like us as the audience were watching, being like, are we watching the same fight? Like, how are you so confident telling your fighter that he's up 2 rounds and to just like hold the pace for round 3 when it's like you should be fighting for your life, even if it's fucking 2018?
Yeah. I that gives me it gave me a thought about how, like, when you're climbing a mountain and people are climbing down and they're like, you're almost there. When it's like, I don't fucking want to know how far it really is. I'll know when I get there, because it's like, you're exhausted and things like that. And I don't think that's things like saying you're doing a good job or you're giving falsities, or I think it would be hard to be in the moment thinking you're at a certain point in the fight that you may or may not be until it's over, I guess. Yeah. So I guess more productive straight talk of like, hey, you're doing this thing, his leg's fucked up, keep targeting the leg, like that's would be more helpful than, say, giving them the feedback of how the round went. Is that what?
Yeah, it's like, I want tactical advice, not moral support.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's a great summary of it. Yeah, that's right. There is a lot of, you did a great job. Tell me that at the end. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, I'll know I did a great job when Bruce Buffer yells my name.
Yeah.
Right. So then after that I think this was a fight that a lot of people were anticipating. I don't know if that's really the word I want to use, but Alexander Rakic versus Ankalaev.
Yeah.
And the first round, I thought the first round was pretty close. I thought that Rakic was landing more, but I did notice that Ankalaev just looked a lot sharper. I really wanted Alexander Rakic to win, and I guess that was my luck on this card, was anybody that I wanted to win fucking tanked.
Yeah, and that's why I don't do sports betting. That's not.
Yeah, and I'm glad I took notes, because this is one of those things I was talking about. My second round note literally said, I want Rakic to win, but telling him he took round 2 and that Ankh is behind is a crazy call. That's literally what his coaches said to him. They said you're up 2 rounds. Ankalaev's going to be chasing you this round, so you just need to stay calm. How the fuck did Ankalaev win by decision if he was up 2 rounds?
Right.
That was awful advice to give your fighter. You set them up to not exert all of their remaining energy in that final round as if they were fighting to win. You basically just convinced them to coast.
Yeah, and there was one thing that Dana White has always said that I consistently agree with is don't leave it up to the judges.
Exactly.
If you don't wanna lose, don't leave it up to the judges, and then there's no question.
Yeah, if you leave it to the judges, don't complain.
Yeah.
We complain as fans.
Yeah.
But like, if you're the person in there, like, your job is to not hope somebody does right by you. It's you do right by yourself because of the 90 plus days you've had of training.
Yeah, I want it to be without a doubt, clear cut. I won without debate,
Yeah. And then there's not really, my notes for the last 2 fights literally both just say, just fucking kill me. That was all I had to say about those last 2 fights, was just fucking kill me. Thank God I didn't buy this fucking pay-per-view.
Yes, I did not either.
Don't come after me, Dana. I bought enough of them to make up for it, okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That card just friggin' had my heart going.
No, I think it was a good one. What did you think about the UFC Noche fight? The one that they did in the Dome. I thought that was oddly unimpressive for The dramatics of it, and also the fact that I think that it had the most attendees of any fight. I mean, I think it's because of the venue.
Yeah, it was their highest gate that they ever had, but one of the most boring cards.
Yeah, that was an odd choice, I guess.
I wish they had put the fucking Alex and Khalil fight in there instead. That card was incredible. What was that? 308? No. 307.
Yeah, the last one.
The 307 card would have been phenomenal to put in there. Alex Bejeda, Juliana Pena, Jose Aldo, Kevin Holland, Roman Dolce.
That was what I watched after. But Pereira in general is just gonna that's gonna be he's gonna be dominant. He's gonna be the one to watch for quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's gonna, man. And I'm trying to see who's on. So the next pay-per-view we got the Jones and Miocic fight, and then in December 7th you use Bilal Muhammad and Shavkat Rakhmonov.
310.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's gonna be a wild card too. That's when so Cyril Gahn is on this card too. So you got the Bilal and Shavkat fight, Cyril Gahn and Alexander Volkov, Vicente Luque and Nick Diaz.
Yeah, what do you think about that comeback, so to speak?
Nick Diaz?
I think the Diaz brothers are gonna always be people that kind of do whatever they want, but
I'm honestly kind of scared. Like, and maybe this is not like a popular opinion, but I wish that Nick Diaz didn't come back. I think too much time had passed. He looked awful in the Robbie Lawler fight. Yeah. I just think that Nick is just too much of a legend and has done too much to make the sport what it is to like have to go out like this.
Well, do you feel that way about Cowboy as well? Because I've been it's like,
I don't think Cowboy should come back point blank, but that's like some whole other shit. I think that, and I don't often agree with DC. I think DC fucking is one of the most annoying people in existence.
I so agree. I don't know. So he's like, I always think of him as like a turtle. I don't know what it is. Just turtle shaped and annoying. And like, I know he's probably the better man in his real life, but I really did love his beef with Jones, and when Jones would absolutely whoop his ass.
It's so good. But one thing DC said on a show recently was like, Cowboy shouldn't come back because this is going to start a precedent of older guys that needed to retiring so that they can take steroids to then get off steroids and then come back and compete again. And it's like, it shouldn't have been okay for Conor McGregor, but at the very least, it was to repair an injury. And they made him go through the 6+ months of the USADA testing cycle. And it's been over a year now. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're going to make a medical exemption, I get it. That's one thing. But like, we should not be encouraging guys that are over 40 to go and do TRT and then come back and try to fight again. Like, it just is baffling.
Yeah, I do agree in that aspect, where when I initially saw the video where he was talking about that, I was excited in the way of like, I hated the way he went out. He was so close to make it, like, you know, exceeding a couple other records. And so it was kind of like, yeah, my boy, that is truly, I know I said the words, the people's champ earlier with Derek Lewis, but Cowboy is really the people's champ.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do agree with that, where like, I guess if he's under the same sort of stipulations as Conor McGregor, say, or somebody else that would be using steroids and would have to be out of using them for a while, that would still put him out for a while to be able to fight.
Exactly.
Correct?
And so you're going to get off the steroids that you've been on for the last few years, and now you're going to cycle off of them and essentially get weaker, and then come back to try and vindicate yourself. It just seems very dangerous.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't have to. Like, Cowboy don't have to. He's got good money. Like, Cowboy does not need to fight again. I can almost guarantee it.
No, absolutely. No, he absolutely does not. He's doing movies now. He has all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I would hate for him. Like, I mean, I think that it sucked that he came when he did come back the first time. It was so dominant, and then the preceding fights after the McGregor fight, that just everything just kind of went down. But I would hate for him to have like what happened with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Yeah. And that was absolutely horrendous to watch. So I'd hate for him to come back and have that end, but I think there would always be some casting of doubt if he did come back and was dominant and was able to get those. I think it was like 50 fights or whatever goal he was trying to achieve.
Yeah,
there.
He's like 2 fights away from 50, I think.
Yeah. Like, I'll pay for it. I'm gonna watch you, but it seemed like it seems like people are largely critical of that.
Yeah, movie. Dana definitely is not a fan of this.
Yeah, but why? But at the same time, why Diaz? Like, why let that happen for this?
I honestly don't think that's a good idea either. I think the only reason Diaz is fighting is because he has fights left on his contract. So it's like if Nick Diaz wants to make money, he either fights in UFC or he makes money outside of the organization. But like, how can he leverage his like personality if he hasn't fought in for, you know what I mean? And like, all the people that knew Nick Diaz in his prime are like older than us even.
Yeah.
And like, that's not wholly the market of like selling your brand, you know, like a 47-year-old man doesn't care that Nick Diaz has his own like CBD weed company or whatever, you know? So it's like, I think unfortunately, and then obviously with the suspensions and all the shit that came about in his career, I don't want to say that he like needs the money, because I don't know if that's like fair, but I think that he feels like this is gonna like keep him afloat or something. I don't know why I honestly don't know why he would be doing this. It just, especially after the Robbie Lawler fight, it just seems like, dude, you don't need to do this. Like, geez.
Yeah. I wonder what's happened with Nick Diaz's like fight promotion stuff. Wasn't he starting a league?
I don't know. I know that they have like the clothing brand and like a bunch of other shit that they do, and they like sponsor boxers. But
yeah, maybe that's what it was. But I thought it was going to be more like a fight league sort of situation.
You know what? Because Nate Diaz, they have that Real Fight Inc. thing.
Yes.
So I know that I know that Real Fight was like the co-promoter of the George and Nate boxing match, but I don't know if they have any plans for like MMA shit yet. I think they kind of had to do that so that Nate could do the Jake Paul thing.
Okay.
You know, because Jake Paul's companies like fund all that shit, so it's like a partnership like between Real Fight and Dickhead Promotions or whatever.
Yeah. You're gonna watch the Jake Paul and Tyson fights coming up.
I get it's on Netflix, right?
I don't know how it's being streamed. I was thinking about going to it when before it got canceled the last time. So I think it's in Texas, but streaming. Oh, when you said that, Netflix came up. Netflix. That's interesting.
It really is. But Netflix is like trying to get into this live event shit.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think whoever's the minds of Netflix is working itself like that type of I feel like they are really on the ball with how to keep up.
Yeah.
With expanding what they do. Okay. Jake Paul battles. Yep. Yeah. Live streaming in 5 languages.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll ask you first. Is that something that you're into? What do you think about like all of these things that, Jake Paul is doing in this fight with Mike Tyson?
I hate all of them. I think all of them have been so bad for so many reasons, and it's hard to like have a formal opinion on them. But like, I hated the Tyron Woodley fights. I hated the Nate Diaz fights.
I fucking hated that.
So, what an embarrassment to MMA. Like,
Yeah.
I think it just made. I don't know. The thing is like, Jake Paul has been able to make people look stupid who like should never have been in that position, where it's like, instead of bringing all these MMA fighters into boxing after you've been boxing for a couple of years, why don't you go into fucking MMA and challenge them? If that's like, if your ploy is to like do these big exhibitions and put on these crazy who is the best fights or whatever, like go and fight these people in their backyard. Like,
Yeah.
It's no surprise to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a surprise to me that Tyron Woodley, a world-class wrestler who fucking lost his title to Kamaru Usman, it's no shock that he got flatlined by Jake Paul. Like, was it shocking in the moment? Absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, like, how can you be that shocked, Like, the guy's not a fucking boxer. You know what I mean? Like, everybody can punch, but not everybody knows how to punch. And there's like a huge difference in that I think people don't learn until, unfortunately, it's like too late.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I hope the Jake Paul machine gets kind of squashed with this.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyson's last fight was great and impressive for his age and everything like that. But it's like the Jake Paul thing it's almost impressive. But also I don't know what to even call it, but it's working.
Yeah, it's doing something.
It's doing something. I'm going to watch it, but.
Well, that's why the Netflix shit, it's like, oh, well, I already have Netflix. So it's like, hopefully I don't have to shell out any extra money for it.
Yeah, no, the trying to navigate multiple streaming avenues is very frustrating. I got as a part of going to the bare knuckle event, I got DAZN, which I've always like refused to subscribe to. And when bare knuckle first started, I actually did buy a subscription, and it was so bad. And even during the like at the time, it's improved now. Just in a few years, this really hasn't been that long. The streaming services were so bad. And you couldn't watch fights that you paid to be able to watch and stuff. But I haven't tested it out since I've come home. But we'll see if the streaming services have improved. But yeah, no, in general, it's like you gotta pick and choose at that point. But in some of these boxing matches, I have paid to watch some of the Jake Paul, whatever he's coming up with at the time, matches. But like Triller events and whatever. And they're largely unimpressive and weird, but there's something everybody's talking about. It's enough to. I have been guilty of paying for them, so I'm glad to hear this one's on Netflix.
I know, me too. I was like, man, I was gonna struggle to shell out money for what's it called? $70 to see fucking Jake Paul.
Yeah.
God, I should have looked at this mode earlier. I'm just like looking at my thing, be like, oh, there's all these buttons here I can press. Like,
I know, I noticed that. I was like, oh, I don't know what happened there, but you did it purposely. Okay. Yeah, so we'll see on that one. Mike Tyson is another one when we were talking about ethics of people versus them as a
athlete.
Yeah, athlete. That's a hard one for me. There was a post made the day before the bare knuckle event with Conor McGregor with Mike Tyson wearing the bare knuckle belt. And I was like, oh, wow, is there a possibility that Mike Tyson might attend this event and whatever? And I was thinking about the magnanimity of that. And and how impressive that would be to see this person in person. And I'm not a big celebrity person, but that's somebody that would definitely,
Yeah, that would be pretty surreal.
yeah, surreal. But yeah, no, that one's a hard one for me, because he is such an interesting. I'm trying to formulate this the best way I can. He's done some fucking terrible things, and is definitely ill in a way that's almost magnificent, and has been like that. Obviously, has been exploited or harnessed to be obviously very enticing to the world. But at the same time, like, I'm glad. I mean, it seems like, or he's being portrayed as somebody that's much different now. But that's a hard one, where it's like, I really want to support Mike Tyson in the way of his glory and his impressiveness as a boxer and an athlete in world history. But at the same time, like, makes you go, ugh.
Yeah, it's hard to start qualifying redemption and like who's worthy and who's not. You know, it's like you'd like to think everybody. Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, we're done. I hope that you're ready to come back for the next fucking.
Yeah, it depends on. I definitely would participate again if that's something that you wanted to do. I don't know what will be going on at that exact time. I mean, I'm usually, do you generally do the same times when you do your
Yep, we're here every Monday. So
at 8.
Every Monday at 8:00 we go live, and so that way people can kind of jump in like they have tonight, and then we'll edit and have the episode up next week before we go live for the next one.
Oh, good that you're editing, because I was a little prepared in the sense that I knew I was going to be talking about UFC 308, but not in the sense that I'm as polished. And I guess it depends on what I'm talking about and where I'm at, I guess. But
exactly,
good that you use your editing powers there.
I won't need to edit much. Luckily, we've had a fun ass conversation. Even we're getting some love here in the comments now too, so seems like everybody had fun. Before we go, since we didn't get to talk about you as much as we did the fights, is there anything that you want to plug, or anything that you want to tell people about, or anything that people should know and follow you on before we wrap up tonight?
Hold up. Oh gosh.
Drum roll, please.
Oh, look at that little tongue too. What are you doing? That was perfect. I didn't even plan that. So this is PETA, and I am fostering PETA from Safe Harbor Sanctuary in Brooks, Maine. I often work with bullies, but Chantel Hahn, who operates the rescue, is honestly a hometown hero. She's an absolute saint. But I worked at an adoption event this weekend, and he needed a new foster, so that's me. I believe he's under 6 months old. He's a baby, but he is huge. We're expecting him to be a black lab mix of sorts. He's going to be a staver, but he's a big old baby. So he's
that's awesome.
If you know anybody that's interested, and if you would like to follow me on social media, I'm E2_honk, and I basically post pictures of my dogs. So if you're interested, if you can send me a message, or even if it's not this puppy that you're interested in, if you're needing resources in that way, I'm a good person to do that. So I guess that's my plug.
What was the ad again? E2_?
Oh, Yee, like YEE, 2_ honk, HONK. Yee honk. Yeah. What's with the tongue, friend? UCP? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Oh, thanks. But yes, that's my plug. Trying to get this boy a new home so I can
love that.
Next foster.
And you're not too far from us. We're in New Hampshire. You're up in Maine. So anybody that's got a love for beautiful dogs, or anybody that's interested in how they can contribute to making animals' lives better, hit this as it's moving at ye_honk. Make sure you check it out right here on the slider. Make sure you go follow her on all platforms. Yo, thank you so much for being here tonight. This was so much fun. I loved having somebody to talk shop with.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute blast. Thank you. And I love what you're doing. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and keep doing it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So hopefully, if all goes as planned, fingers crossed, let me of course I was trying to pull up my notes here real quick. I want to see what we got lined up for the next few episodes here. And of course, I was hoping to do this all smooth, and my computer was like, nah, dude, gotta lag a bit. Fuck it, I'll pull it up over here. So I think the next, we were just talking about it too. Oh, all my internet in this building is a disaster. Here we go. Yeah, so next week on Monday, November 4th, we have Chef Adam Jump from Jumptown's Test Kitchen. He's going to be here live talking about the independent food scene. Following Monday, November 11th, we're going to have Ben Anthony from the New Hampshire Skateboarding Camp, as well as photographer Angela Bartuli, talking about concert photography and coming up in the metal scene and stuff like that. And then Monday, November 18th is going to be our next UFC post-pay-per-view recap. So if you're free, Monday, November 18th, we'll be right here talking about the Jones and Miocic fight. And it seems like we're going to be leading the combo.
All right. Sounds great. I'll definitely keep that in mind, because that will certainly be one that I will be watching.
Yeah, that's going to be an epic. So one more time, everybody, make sure you guys check out below. Go on Instagram or any platform. Follow Rochelle right there at YEE__honk. Make sure you honk your way into a beautiful dog's heart. And we will catch up with you again soon. Yo, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Rochelle. I had a blast.
Yeah, same to you, brother. Thank you.
Absolutely. Much love. And thank you guys so much for tuning in here. As we always do at the end, brand new album, Giant Steps in Gate City, is available on all platforms right now. Spotify, Tidal, Google, hellhoundpublishing.com. Anywhere you listen to music, please check out the new album. Please run it up. It's 18 brand new songs. Appreciate all the love and support. Me and Byron are going to be performing live at the Nashua Holiday Stroll. This year is the 29th annual Nashua Holiday Stroll. We're going to be on the Gate City Hip Hop stage on West Pearl Street. It's going to be a really fun day. We're going to have Hip Hop Santa there. We're going to have the Drum Machine Vibes crew there. And then me and Byron are going to wrap it up, playing some songs from the new album, as well as a collection of surprises. So we got a bunch of great stuff in store. Let me run through the show listing one more time here for anybody that missed it off the top of the rip here. Let me switch back to that real quick. So for upcoming shows this week, one more time, you need something cool to check out in the New England area. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, in Salem, Massachusetts, is going to be Valletta, North Carolina dark metal band, along with Drive-By Bukkake. Also on the 29th, This Will Destroy You is going to be playing in Sonia. Wednesday, October 30th, legendary hip-hop group The Far Side will be performing at Wally's in Hampton Beach alongside I-9 and DJ Myth. Thursday, for Halloween, Coolidge Corner Theater is going to be hosting the Scream Halloween House Party, showing the original Scream movie and the new modern Scream movie right after. November 2nd, there's going to be a flea market at the Nashua Senior Center. Anoid and Chemic are both going to be playing at the Middle East in Boston. You can get tickets from Chemic directly at Chemic Hip Hop, KEMIC Hip Hop. Get at her for tickets. On the 2nd, the Far Side will also be in Burlington, Vermont with the one and only Mr. Burns at Nectar's. On November 3rd, Rap Night Manchester will be at the Shaskeen in Manchester, New Hampshire. Rap Night Manchester is going on over 10 years. It's a weekly hip hop residency that you can check out every single week. Wednesday, November 6th, is going to be the next open mic night at Coffee and Kindness in Nashua, New Hampshire. Thursday, November 7th, is going to be Stand Up Nashua, a live stand-up comedy event that's 18 plus at the Nashua Public Library. Friday, November 8th, Slant from South Korea is going to be playing at the Cantab Lounge in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Sunday, November 10th, Donaher is going to be playing at Taffeta in Lowell. Friday, November 22nd, Ruby Shabazz is going to be at Taffeta in Lowell. As we mentioned, Saturday, November 30th, me and Byron G will be performing in downtown Nashua for the 29th annual Nashua Holiday Stroll. And on December 7th, we've got MDOT coming to Manchester, New Hampshire to wrap up the year. If you got any events coming up, make sure you hit me up and let me know directly. I will put some info out there to where you can send us these events and all this stuff to come up with. Thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. Huge thank you to my new homie, Rochelle, for coming in and tapping in for so long to talk about the fights, and make sure you guys show her some love. Let me just pull this up one more time. Make sure you guys contact her at Yeehonk, YEE__HONK. She's doing a lot of work in the animal community, so make sure you support her. As we mentioned before, Giant Steps in Gate City is now available on all streaming platforms. Please check it out. Please run it up. If you like it, tell somebody. It's the best thing you can do. And as always, please comment, like, subscribe, the whole nine, whatever platform you're on. All that engagement helps us out huge. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you're back next week when we have Chef Adam Jump on the show. We're going to be talking all things food. We're going to be talking independent kitchens, food trucks, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a great one. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you all. And we will see you again next week. Much love, everybody.